Welcome in Friday edition of Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across this OutKick network. I'm fired up, not because Hutton's not here. I love Jonathan Hutton. I'm sad anytime he's not right next to me. But we have a great show planned for you. Hutton's going to be back with us next week, by the way. And when I say great show, I mean one that I am truly, truly excited to bring to you today because we have a loaded guest list starting with Jevon Kearse, the freak, coming up in about 20 minutes at 3:21 Eastern Time. After that, Michael Fabiano, fantasy analyst for Sports Illustrated, will join us at 3:41. Later in the show, John McClain from Houston, one of the greatest football minds ever to be around, and a guy who's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, will talk NFL with us at 3:21 Central. That's 4:21 Eastern. Sorry, I'm on Central Time in Houston. Kelly in Vegas. Can't do a Kelly impression, but she can do great impressions. She can do anything. She's going to give you winners for the football weekend coming up 4:41 Eastern. My top 10 college football games of the week coming up later in the show as well. And finally, a gun show on this Friday. Mike Gunzelman of OutKick joining us in studio. We'll get into a little bit of everything. We'll talk about the most famous person in America during that segment. Davey Hudson's going to be alongside also, and we'll talk about that later in the show as well. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. A lot of pop culture issues to get into with Mike Gunzelman coming up later in the show. Talking about famous people in America, circa 1996, maybe the most famous person or one of them in America would have been Tupac Shakur, as we go in our Scorched Earth segment, and we're going to highlight two stories out of Vegas, both hitting today, that are equally nuts. We start with Tupac Shakur, murdered 27 years ago, and as of today, someone was arrested in connection with that murder. That's right, 27 years later. It's K-E-F-F-E-D, Keffe, Keef, like Righteous Gemstones, I'm not sure, but Keffe D is the street name for a man by the name of Dwayne Davis. Dwayne Davis in 2018 told BET on a show titled Death Row Chronicles. Yes, like you, I want to watch all of these episodes now after hearing about this show for the first time. But on Death Row Chronicles, detailed that he was in the car the night of the drive-by shooting of Tupac Shakur. Said he didn't pull the trigger, but he knows who did pull the trigger. This, along with his 2019 book titled Compton Street Legend, where he also details that night, led Las Vegas authorities to his home because, of course they would, with someone with this information, had a subpoena, searched different electronic devices that were connected with Dwayne Davis, and now, here we are, September 2023, we have an arrest for the murder of Tupac with Dwayne Davis. No details yet from authorities on whether or not he's being arrested for the murder, but he is being arrested in connection with the murder of Tupac Shakur. Crazy, crazy story. Gets me thinking about all the other unsolved mysteries out there, all the other unsolved crimes. Actually listened to a podcast recently about Tupac's murder and Biggie Smalls' murder around the same time. Crazy stuff coming out of Vegas. If you remember a couple of months ago, that's when the subpoena happened where authorities were searching his home. Now an arrest has been made. Crazy day in Las Vegas. And Davey Hudson is alongside with us. Davey, we were talking before the show when I first saw this news come across. What was your reaction when you heard that someone was arrested in connection with Tupac's murder?
The biggest thing was that it's been 27 years.
Yep.
The fact that we have gone that long. The other thing, Chad, we go back to the middle of July. You were kind of referring to it, but we had the situation where that house was raided. There was like video of the SWAT team busting in, and it's looking like everything's coming together as they continue to put this case on Davis. It's weird. You know, you kind of get those statements from 2018 that he's made. And again, this is one of those situations in pop culture lore as far as who actually killed Tupac. And now we might be getting a little bit closer again. There's going to be a lot more information come out. And I'm sure a lot of it's going to be false in relation, but definitely a story worth keeping an eye on.
No doubt about it. We'll get a lot more. My immediate thought, Davey, you're the guy who went to law school also, so you know more about the legal process with this. My first thought was, damn, this Netflix documentary is going to be hot. it's going to be great when we get to see all the details of this case so many years later, because someone's going to be making a documentary about this case. Again, there's been many made already, but it's going to happen again. Let's stay in Las Vegas for our next story. Chandler Jones, great defensive end, was with the Vegas Raiders, still is with the Vegas Raiders, went on the non-football injury list on September 5th. He's been acting very erratically. He's had some crazy social media posts about Josh McDaniels, about the Raiders organization. And then things really started to get a little strange yesterday. Went on Instagram Live, started talking about the suicide of Aaron Hernandez, hinted that it wasn't a suicide, it was a murder, which, by the way, other NFL players have hinted about this same stuff, former teammates of Aaron Hernandez on other podcasts. But Chandler Jones does this and immediately breaks down and starts sobbing uncontrollably. At that moment, everyone was worried and nervous for Chandler Jones. Mental health being a real thing and being something that people are concerned with, especially when you see someone with this level of talent or anyone behaving this erratically. Well, as of today, Chandler Jones arrested apparently for breaking a protective order. There's nothing really humorous to say about all this, other than if you watch that video and see some of the online behavior, you can't help but just pray for the guy and hope that things turn out okay. And personally for me, hope that he doesn't hurt anybody else. I don't want him to hurt himself, especially don't want him to hurt someone else, because we've seen issues with this in this country manifest itself into things that could hurt a lot of people. I hope that's never the case. I certainly hope it's not the case with Chandler Jones. I hope that he gets the help that he needs. In fact, the Las Vegas Raiders hope for the same thing. They released a statement saying the Raiders are hopeful that Chandler Jones receives the care that he needs. He, his family, and all those involved are in our thoughts. As this is now a legal matter, we will not be providing further comment. Davey, it feels like this was sort of the inevitable next step in this story, that he was either going to go get help, he was going to be taken away and forced to get help, or he was going to be arrested. These options are better than other options that could have happened in this story, because it's very clear Chandler Jones is not okay.
Yeah, you mentioned it's a sad story all around. We go back to September 5th. That's the last time he's been around the Raiders organization, whenever he tried to get into the team facility, but there was an issue with access. Of course, he's making those accusations that he was involuntarily forced to go into a mental hospital days ago. And then the breakdown, it's just a terrible look. You can tell it's an unstable human being that desperately needs the help. And I'm glad that the arrest was able to take place without further injury occurring. And there's just nothing good that can come from this outside of him getting the help that he desperately needs. I know a lot of the conversation is going to go to, will we ever see him on the football field again, because he is a great player? Right now, all indications are it just doesn't look like that's going to be the case. There's just so many other things in this man's life that he needs to get straightened out before football even comes back into the equation.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be an immediate rush to try to find a reason for this, right? Yeah. Whether it be CTE, hits the head, something else going on. Is there a substance abuse, issue going on? That's for the doctors to decide, right? We have Pro Football Doc on this show to give us the medical opinion on things. I'm less concerned about the cause of this right now and more concerned about Chandler Jones being somewhere where he can't hurt himself or others, because this is not normal behavior that we're witnessing. Anyone can see that. And I'm not going to sit here and give a medical diagnosis to what Chandler Jones is going through, but I'm a layman. I didn't go to medical school, and I can watch this video of Chandler Jones or see what he's writing on social media. I'd say the same thing about Antonio Brown. Sometimes it doesn't take someone throwing their jersey and shoulder pads off on the field and walking off to know something's wrong. Antonio Brown, with some of the stuff he was spewing, you could tell something is off. And it gets to a point where it's no longer punchline, and it's more of I hope someone gets through to this person that can actually help them. I'm not that someone. Certainly people on social media, you can pray for him, wish him well. Those aren't those people either. He needs medical help. And if it takes getting arrested to go through the legal system to eventually lead him to court-ordered medical help, so be it. And hopefully this all ends with a happy story where I'm with you, Davey. I think it's short-sighted even thinking about football right now. I don't think he's ever going to play again, if I had to guess, but that he gets the help he needs so he's not a danger to himself or anyone else in his life or outside of his life. That's the hope with Chandler Jones.
And there were situations back whenever he was with the Patriots that rumors that he was dealing with some other stuff happened, and they were able to get that under control. Hopefully, again, that's the case, and he is able to make that return. But again, we are just too far away from learning anything in that regard and seeing like what's actually going to come out of this.
Changing of the guard in the NFC North possibly last night is what we witnessed. Packers trailed 27-3 at halftime of this game against the Lions, the most they've ever trailed at Lambeau Field at halftime. They came out of the gates in the second half gunning. Jordan Love looked better, started to make it a game, but in the end, the Lions continue to build the lead, end up winning it 34-20 after a rough start for Jared Goff. First drive, he throws an interception where I have no idea where he's looking. Throws it right to a Packers defender. Packers manage 1 yard after the turnover, kick a field goal, and it was all Detroit Lions from that point forward. Here's what I love about this Lions team. Well, I love a lot of things about this Lions team. I love Dan Campbell. I love his fire. I love the way he leads this team. I like that Jared Goff is keeping receipts and going after Ryan Fitzpatrick post-game in a fun way, a little back and forth, where he jokes with Ryan Fitzpatrick on the table, on the desk, and the set of the Amazon Prime Video coverage last night. Says, I thought I was a poor man's Matt Ryan. And says, I did see that and what Ryan Fitzpatrick said about it. I didn't know that he said that, but I like that. You got Jared Goff knowing that he said it and keeping receipts and also having to have a sense of humor about being able to have a sense of humor about it. But what I see from the Lions, this is less surprise and more confirmation. And here's what I mean by that. I was surprised when they went into KC and won, even with the injuries to the Chiefs in that game. They didn't seem as surprised. Their fans were surprised. In this game, everything I saw and everything I heard in that locker room, from Dan Campbell down to Jared Goff when he's talking to the team, is confirmation. This is who we are. Let's show them who we are. We showed them tonight. Hey, that's 3-1 on the season. Let's keep it going. But we have a lot to do. That's 1-0 in the division. But this is the confirmation process. We know who we are. We're going to have that stamp of approval of exactly who we are. It's no longer, let's learn how to win. Let's start to become who we're going to be. I really think with this Lions squad, it is, we're here. This is who we are. We are the best in this division. And, Davey, I watch that team and think they can win a lot of different ways. Good running attack, good young receivers. Defense can be a little porous, but can be feisty at times too. But talking about feisty, the feistiness of Dan Campbell as head coach is something to behold.
Yeah, Dan Campbell done an outstanding job so far with this team, and I didn't anticipate this going into the game, but they were able to get running back David Montgomery back. He ended up rushing for 121 yards and 3 touchdowns. And the other thing is this, I mean, they just got up early. It was 27 unanswered, and you mentioned the 27-3 at the halftime. They were interviewing Packers coach, Coach LaFleur, coming back out, and he even used the word like this is embarrassing to describe that effort in the first half. They were able to get a little bit going offensively in the second. Jordan Love was able to settle down a little bit, but, I mean, the Lions were just swarming out there. And another guy that you just look at that offense for the Lions, offensive coordinator Ben Johnson. I mean, that is a guy to keep an eye on whenever it comes to the head coaching cycle for this next season, because that guy is able to put together one hell of a game plan. And if you look at what they are doing in Green Bay, this isn't your father's in Detroit, this isn't your father's Lions team. I mean, this team is actually going to be able to do something, and I think come playoffs, especially if they can play in a dome, they're going to be sitting pretty.
I agree with you. I love this team, love watching them. Hasn't been as much fun if you're Mel Tucker watching the situation at Michigan State. The best way I could segue to that one. Mel Tucker's going to sue to get his money in the buyout. This is no surprise. He's hinted at it the entire time, well within his legal rights to do so. The biggest question to me in this whole case, getting to the heart of this, what Mel Tucker did was stupid. He's admitted it was stupid. Does it rise to the level of moral turpitude / embarrassing the university, harming the university's reputation? It depends on who you ask. If 2 consenting adults have phone sex, and then one person says, well, it wasn't consenting, but I stayed on the line for 27 minutes because I didn't want to hang up, You could rightfully ask some questions about the motivation behind that. And I'm talking about Brenda Tracy, who's alleging these acts against Mel Tucker. But I'll also say, and this is probably where they're going to get in trouble with this, the university hired her to speak to the team. And I go back to Bobby Petrino. You know, having an affair with a younger woman and getting in a motorcycle accident with her on the back of the motorcycle, that's bad enough. But you get fired with cause and all of your money stripped away when that younger woman is an employee of the football program, which that was the case at Arkansas with Bobby Petrino. If this is, in fact, a paid contractor of the university, which I believe she is, because she was paid to come speak to the team, and there's now allegations that she was not invited back because of some of this, that's a problem for Mel Tucker, clearly. Davey, you're our legal analyst here. What do you think about Mel Tucker suing the university?
I mean, he's right to do it, and I don't blame him at all. This is not a situation I see this going to trial. A lot of these wrongful termination suits often end in a settlement. And really the one thing that kind of just hurts Mel Tucker right now is he should have just lied. I mean, he said he admitted to masturbating and
yeah, he kind of. You're right.
So if he doesn't say that, he is in a much more advantageous position. I know we're kind of up against it, but this is one of those things. It's going to be a long road, but I eventually see him not getting the full buyout, but he will be receiving some sort of financial compensation in a settlement.
As a wise man once said, deny, deny, deny. Those are the three most important words. Maybe Mel Tucker should have followed suit with that. Jevon Kearse, the freak himself, joins Hot Mike. That's next.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome on into OutKick the Morning. I am your host, Charlie Arnold. Now, when it comes to race baiting in sports, no one does it better than ESPN. It's one of the reasons I was frustrated while working there. And now the Disney-owned company is out to prove just how overwhelming racism really is in the world of sports. Later this month, ESPN Plus will debut a new series on their streaming platform called Skin in the Game with Dr. Ibram X. Kendi. Now, if you aren't familiar with Kendi, he is a so-called anti-racist. He's a writer who makes a living trying to prove just how racist everybody else is. One of his books defines racism as referring to policies and ideas that create or permit any differences in outcomes in racial groups, to which I think it's clear racism goes both ways these days. But that's not a double narrative you will find in this series. Instead, the first episode will focus on Black athletes who use public platforms to protest injustices and what it costs to speak up. And in the second, why Black female athletes are considered polarizing when they prioritize their mental health, just as a few examples. Now, I appreciate highlighting athletes who have done incredible things in the world of sports, whether they are Black, white, Asian, Latin, or otherwise. But using Ibram X. Kendi to lead this series just feels like a setup. Is he going to mention that in these episodes, there was an occurrence in 2016 where Colin Kaepernick wore socks to a 49ers practice that showed cartoon policemen done up as pigs? Now, this even being prior to Kaepernick's sit-down of the national anthem during San Francisco's August preseason game. Or will they mention how in 2022, former ESPN anchor and sports analyst Jemele Hill famously called Trump a white supremacist and his voters all racist? Until the documentary airs, we can only ask one question. Will it be fair and balanced? Seems highly unlikely. Now, considering the host, handpicked by ESPN, he has incited his own racist remarks against people that don't look like him in the past, so I don't see how any way, in any shape, any form, this is an unbiased series. Now, speaking of the past, once upon a time, guys, I also worked for the Fox station in Indianapolis, and I covered the Colts. One of the guys I covered in that locker room, former NFL safety Sergio Brown, who went on to play for 6 years in the league. When I met him, he was talented, he was smart, and an all-around very, very pleasant guy. So I was startled to come across headlines 2 days ago that his mother had been murdered and that he was nowhere to be found. Then yesterday, the story got even weirder. From an Instagram burner account, which seems to belong to Brown, a video was posted of Brown making some very, very bizarre claims. Check it out.
I got it. Doris. It's P. Sherman.
There's something going on with the stream.
Sydney.
It's going.
Oh my gosh. I can't. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. What the missing? They ain't never seen Finding Nemo. What the What's going on? This is dramatic. Lucky I know how to say a joke. You
can hear him say he thought his mom was on vacation and the FBI and Maywood Police Department in Illinois had kidnapped him. This is a part of the video that you didn't see, but he goes on to make very, very weird claims. He also talks about fake news. I mean, it's clear Sergio Brown has lost it. And making it even worse for Sergio, one of his mom's neighbors told a local news station that police told him that they saw Brown through the door's Ring camera and light a bonfire to burn his mother's clothes.
Welcome into Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. Great show for you on this Friday, and it just continues to get better and better. It's always a good show when you can be joined by the Freak himself, one of the greatest nicknames in the history, not just of football, but of sport in general. He is Jevon Kearse, former Titans legend, NFL legend, Florida Gator legend, and he's here today on behalf of Sax Underwear brand. The All Sax Conference is a group NIL deal made up of 6 SAC leaders across college football. Partnership's going to benefit a great cause also, as SACs will donate $1,000 to the Testicular Cancer Foundation for every SAC made by the group this season. Jevon Kearse knows a thing or two about SACs and SACs, S-A-X-X. Jevon, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Having a good morning. We're supposed to go play some golf, but it's kind of wet, so I'm going to just hang out with you today.
Hey, that's perfect. Hey, that's good. The rain finally benefited me in some way. Yeah. You see NIL deals like this, Jevon, which is really cool, and this is going to a great cause also. And I can't help but think if Jevon Kearse, who was a great player at the University of Florida, was playing today, what could you earn in NIL? I'm sure you've thought about that before as well. What do you think about this new world of NIL and what it could have meant for you as a player?
I think it's very fascinating. Personally, I think it's something good to, as far as the negative things that comes with when they wasn't doing that was with players probably getting involved with agents and players not really like having the means or the financial support, and then doing things that's going to get them in trouble as far as credit card fraud and everything else. So I personally think it's definitely going to help fight all that right there. And if I was in college right now, it would definitely be cool. I'm sure there's some guys who are probably in school right now thinking about going to the next level, even if they don't go early or whatnot, but to start making money or whatnot, just to help support themselves or their families. And now with these NIL deals, now they have access to it and probably not as much stress. But I have two different sides to this right here. Talking to guys who played in college, guys who played in the league, and they're just but they're giving out money, but it's too much. Is it out of control? They took a problem that was a small problem and made it to something even bigger. But I mean, at least they're giving these kids a chance to be, financially compensated from the things that they're doing on a college level, because these schools are making a lot of money off of them.
Yeah, if you're a good SEC player like you were at Florida, I think NIL can just make your life very comfortable while you're in college. To your point, you're not having to do things to try to have some money that you otherwise, wouldn't be doing. If you're a great player, and especially a quarterback or certain positions, I think it does give you something to think about if you're going to leave for the NFL draft early, because rookie contracts aren't what veteran contracts are. So it may give a quarterback that's a 3rd or 4th round pick, or a receiver that's a 3rd or 4th round pick, something to think about at the right programs, which is definitely different from when you were making your decision to go pro, right?
Mm-hmm. So definitely, I think if it's someone who's, they're getting a good NIL deal and, they're on the fence about going pro or whatever, I'm sure that can make the situation a lot easier, because if you're making money now, then it's why deal with that extra stress I love to just still make money like that and still be on a college campus.
Jevon, you were a guy, paid to wreck the quarterback's day, right, as a disruptor from your position. With the rules today, has the game gotten too soft for guys like you that your job is to get after the quarterback?
Yes, they got too damn soft, man. And even some quarterbacks will still tell you that the rules are soft for them, whatever. But I guess they want it to be a pass-happy league, and that's what they're doing. So I guess you got to try to evolve with it. But I mean, I do think like a lot of those rule changes mostly and only benefits the offense. But we know the big story is they want to see a lot of points, want to see a lot of scoring. So it's good that we have these defensive ends these days, like the Nick Bosa's, the TJ Watts, and those guys who can also be disruptive as well.
Yeah, and it also owners want to protect their investment. And their top investment is quarterback, and they don't want to see them hurt is a big part of it also. I think back to your rookie year with the Titans, where you set the league on fire. Rookie of the year, the freak T-shirts are everywhere. Your team goes all the way to the Super Bowl. And while the team didn't go to the Super Bowl, I watched Micah Parsons, granted at a different position, in his rookie year, and how he came on the league. And I see some similarities with how disruptive you were and Micah Parsons early in his career. What do you think when you watch the Dallas Cowboys star?
Dude, I can't lie. Like when I got into the league, even though I wasn't an outside backer, who I watched a lot of film on? 56 for those Giants.
LT.
Lawrence Taylor. And personally, if you ask me, I think Micah Parsons is he's the next thing to it. I mean, if you say it to him, I guess he's going to probably want to be the next Micah Parsons. But being called or compared to Lawrence Taylor is a huge thing, a very huge thing. So, he's a force, and he does it from all over the field. He does it from the D line. He does it from the linebacker spot. He's left. He's right. He's inside. Definitely a very disruptive force. I mean, even if he don't get sacks, but he gets the sacks as well. But he makes a whole bunch of noise. He's causing pressure. He's disruptive. If I was a defensive back for the Cowboys, I'd definitely be thinking number 11 up front. I mean, along with the rest of the guys, but number 11, he definitely gets after the quarterback and he makes the back end job, the guys on the back end job much easier.
Jevon, what is your attachment to the game like today? Are you watching college football on Saturdays? Are you watching a full day of NFL on Sundays? And some of your guys you played with, some guys get completely away from it when they're done. But most guys still want to watch and know what's going on. What is your level of attachment?
I'm still attached to it. I'm watching football all day on college on Saturday. I mean, I live down in Florida, so I'm trying to keep up with all these kids because actually when I stopped playing, I got away from it briefly, and I want to say I kind of started losing the names and got what school who was coming out of what school. But being from Florida, I try to keep up with the sport because that's just what we do down there. And then just so I can know these guys was getting drafted because when I first got out, I probably unplugged for maybe about a year, but then got back into it. But then I was kind of lost with guys getting drafted and stuff. So I stay abreast of that. And then when it comes to watching the NFL, I'm watching from a different perspective now. Now I love watching the games. I hang out with friends who have fantasy football teams, and all they want to watch is red zone.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. I want to see how they got to the red zone. I'm trying to see more of the game. I want to see these pass rushing, the pass rushers, what they're seeing. So now whenever I'm watching the game, I try to put myself on the field and see what keys that I see and everything else. So I'm still watching it now from I'm watching now from a different aspect, not even players aspect, but that's more a coach and a scouting aspect now.
Smart football people, I've always heard, they're always watching the line, and then they're not watching the ball at all times, and they're watching the line to see what's happening. They know what's going to happen based on the line. I'm sure as a guy that played on the line, is that how you're watching the game? Ball second, line first?
That's just how I'm watching it there. You can see a lot just from the line, just from the formation, the down and distance, and literally, like, I can call out a bunch of plays like before it happened as well. So I do the same thing Tony Romo does as well.
Yeah, you can call all the plays every single time. Jevon Kearse on with us, representing Saks Underwear brand, a great NIL partnership they have going on. Deion Sanders has set the college football world on fire. Everyone's paying attention. Everyone's watching. He's a human soundbite with everything that he says. Your former teammate and a good buddy, Eddie George, is coaching at TSU, at HBCU. That's where Deion Sanders came from at Jackson State. Jevon, what do you think when you watch a Deion Sanders and his success, or your former teammate Eddie George coaching? When you see former players getting into college coaching at this level, what do you think?
Well, the main thing I know about Eddie and about Deion, like they're motivators. They're like when I first got into the league, Eddie was one of the first guys to grab me and put me to the side, like, listen here, bro. We got a job to do. We're not trying to haze you. We're not trying to do all this other stuff, make you sing and stuff. Listen, we got something to do because we went 8-8 3 years in a row. We're trying to win some games, trying to get over that hump right there. And it was just like a brotherhood that I felt like right away. And when I speak on Deion's from my hometown. Deion's from my high school. So it was like, but knowing Deion, the kind of person he is, like Deion's the ultimate motivator. Like he's the ultimate, like, and he's definitely changed the face of college football right now. I mean, love it or not, everyone has something to say right now about Colorado. Everybody has something to say, even if it's good or bad. But like, you can't knock what he's doing. Like he's all about these kids. That's another thing. Like a lot of people were mad when he left the HBCU, whatever. But he's taking the kids with him. Like he's doing stuff for kids. He's helping these kids out, man. Still, so like definitely he's changing the face of college football right now. And if I was in college, I definitely would want to go play for prime time.
Jevon, your former team, the Titans, are kind of in a weird spot right now as a franchise. They're sort of in between, it feels like, of what they are and what they could be. Maybe this is the last year for Derrick Henry as a Titan. Certainly looks like it's the last year contract-wise for Ryan Tannehill. They can get out of that after this year. What do you think is the main issue when you watch this Titans team? They fired John Robinson, the GM, late last season. They're starting over there with Rand Carthon. I know you're watching the games. What's your main takeaway from this team and where they are right now as a franchise?
I mean, I really, what you said, like, I can't put a finger on it, whatever, because from me seeing the production that they're getting out of Derrick Henry, but I mean, that's like when he's splitting his carries 50-50 with someone else in the backfield, it's like, are they sending a message? Because like normally the Titans goes as number 22 goes. And then number 22 is not going there, and the Titans have a hard time going. But I don't know. I kind of think it's like a transition. I mean, if you ask me personally, because like when you draft a quarterback as early as they did with Malik Willis the year before, and then draft a quarterback, Will Levis out of Kentucky this past year, I think it's sending out a message that they may want to get a certain position situated. So. Or maybe they're trying to light a fire under someone's butt, like to get them performing more. But I mean, what the situation is, it just seems like a transition to where they're trying to do something different or do something new.
Speaking of lighting a fire, how about Joe Namath lighting a fire under everyone with the New York Jets at 80 years old and saying, hey, the guy can't play quarterback. I've seen enough of him. And if the coach and the GM can't figure that out, then, well, they need to go too. That gets Aaron Rodgers coming back. That gets Robert Saleh coming back on him. What do you think when you hear that, Jevon? That's you?
No, that was me. That was
mean.
Right,
okay, I thought you said that was me. So you're not for former players going scorched earth like this? I
mean, somewhat, but if you're Joe Namath, your name carries some weight, and you mentioned something like that. Like that's going to happen there. Like I don't know, maybe you should try to be. If I'm going to go on and talk about someone that plays my position and they played it for a team that I played for, maybe I should go in and try to help, see if I can be a part of the solution instead of just pointing fingers. But that's just me.
Jevon Kearse trying to be a part of the solution, fighting testicular cancer with Saks Underwear also, and what they have going on with a great NIL promotion going to a good cause. Jevon, always great, man, catching up with you. Have fun down in Florida. Hopefully the weather clears up at some point so you can go golf.
Thank you very much, man. I'm looking forward to these guys getting these sacks and raising some money.
Thanks, Jevon.
Thank you.
Always great talking some ball, literally, figuratively, with Jevon Kearse, one of the best, and comparing Micah Parsons to one of the best, LT, Lawrence Taylor. I can see it. I'm not saying he's Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence Taylor is a one of one, but Micah Parsons right now, early in his career, looks like he is one of one as well. Terrific start to his career. Talking about terrific starts to a career, Jevon Kearse in 1999, right here in Nashville, when he started with the Titans, was terrific. And I would say he would have made a ton with the freak moniker at the University of Florida, but I'm pretty sure he got that nickname not until the NFL with the Titans. And it was because of his vertical jump, because of some of the things he could do in conditioning, and when they did testing at the NFL draft and with the Titans, when he was just a rocket ship on the scene with the Titans in year one, going all the way to the Super Bowl. One of the very best, and a guy who definitely would have made some money in NIL had he been given the opportunity. Michael Fabiano, he's made some money with fantasy football. He's probably cost people some money with fantasy football. He is the senior fantasy analyst with Sports Illustrated. He joins us weekly. He's joining us coming up next. He's going to give us what we need to know for the fantasy football weekend. That's next. This is Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow.
I'm here at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, but that's not the only big race that's on people's minds. Let's go talk about it.
There's no way Biden can win again. There's just no way. Even the people that voted for him because they didn't like Trump, now at least have to see, like, senile, not all there, probably won't be alive for 4 more years.
Are you a Trump guy? Or are you a DeSantis guy? Or someone else?
I don't like any of them.
Who's your dream candidate? Who would you want to run?
Myself. I think the best candidates probably are smart enough not to run.
I just hope there's somebody that's young enough to care about the country instead of their politics.
My fear is they get Gavin Newsom from California. I think it would be the new cool vote for the younger people, and that's what I don't like.
Who do you think on the Republican side would be able to take on Gavin Newsom?
Great question. As a Republican registered, I love what Trump's body of work did, but they're just out to get him and destroy him, and we won't get things done, which is crappy for me to say. I thought DeSantis was going to be the guy. Trump only has 4 years left. He cannot fix everything that just happened in 4 years. And he's going to be battling indictments and all these false stuff for the next 4 years. We won't get anything done. And it'll just be the stalemate in America. That's why I almost don't want him in. But if he is the leading candidate, that's who I'm going to vote for.
Is there any Democrat that you would vote for, consider voting for?
Absolutely not.
What about RFK Jr.?
No.
Who should our first female president be?
Michelle Obama, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Harambe 2024.
We have the 2024 presidential race coming up, and I wanted to see who you thought your favorite TV characters would vote for. Homer Simpson, like who do you think he would vote for?
Donald Trump, all the way.
Vito Corleone.
Whoa. Whoever advances the cause of the Corleone family. Yeah.
Tony Soprano. If Tony Soprano is voting in the 2024 election, who do you think he's voting for?
I'm gonna go Ron DeSantis.
Okay, why do you think that?
Just seems like a Ron DeSantis kind of guy.
Is this a meatball joke that you're trying to make right now? What about Homer Simpson?
Homer would vote for Biden because he's a dope.
Who do you think Napoleon Dynamite would vote for?
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
There's a right answer here.
He's voting for himself or Pedro.
There's a Viking show, I think.
Okay.
Maybe that's Hulu. I don't know.
So in the Viking show, whatever the main character is, who do you think they would vote for in 2024?
Probably a goat or a dog.
I think we have one of those in office right now. So who do you think Jon Snow would vote for in this upcoming election?
I'm going to say Donald J. Trump.
Why do you think so?
because Game of Thrones is all about drama, and Trump comes with the drama, baby.
Would you vote for Trump from jail?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Because at that point, what else do you have to lose?
Okay, would you vote for Trump from a jail cell?
Hell yeah, baby. I will get Trump out of jail.
Would you vote for Trump in jail?
Oh, yeah.
Based as
The thing that Trump needs to remember is there's another political figure that said, I don't recall very well.
Yeah.
And that's all he's got to say.
Is there like a dream candidate, someone that you think could like save us all?
Yeah, Jesus.
Amen to that.
We are back. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick network. I'm Chad Withrow. Jonathan Hutton will be back with us next week. We have a loaded show for you today. I promised a loaded show when we opened today. I was not lying. Another one of those guests as part of this loaded show is Michael Fabiano. He is the senior fantasy analyst for Sports Illustrated. He joins us weekly to get you ready for your fantasy football weekend. I have questions. Michael has the answers, and he's on with us right now. Michael, how are you, man?
I'm good, man. I only played in one league where I had to face David Montgomery, so I guess that's a good thing, right?
What was the record? Your record was still above 500 last week, but was it better this week as opposed to the week before with all your fantasy teams?
Yeah, no, it was. Last week was a good week. In most leagues, I am either above the Mendoza line or undefeated. There's a couple of leagues where I'm 1 and 2, but that's all good. That just means I get higher waiver priority.
There you go. Well, I am 1 and 2 in my fantasy league, the only one I'm playing in, and I would be 2 and 1 had I started Devin Achane this past week. But it's one of those where I didn't even consider it. I started Joe Mixon and Rashad White,
did.
like everyone would, right? And then Achane has 51 fantasy points in my league. My question, Michael, is how should one handle Devin Achane from here on out after that breakout performance?
We need to help at running back. Running back's a really difficult position right now to fill. You've got injuries and you've got other players who we thought were going to be studs who haven't been, like, for example, Josh Jacobs. He might be right at the top of that list. And listen, he had a huge game last week, and he's going to be active in a lot of leagues. I think he was only active in about 4 or 5% of leagues last week, which is not surprising considering he hadn't played. And there was really no talk of Achane getting a big-time workload, which is what he did. And then, of course, the game went off the rails and the Dolphins put up 70 on Denver. So is he a flex starter this week? Absolutely. Obviously, he probably just had the best game he'll ever have in his career from a fantasy perspective, but it's good now that we have him from week 4 moving forward into that mix to help with the running back depth, which is just so bad right now.
Yeah, and my personal predicament, Rashad White, Joe Mixon, starting running backs. That's who I would start. It's a 14-team league or whatever it is I'm in. But I'm looking at it now, and just on projections, which I know you don't look at. You go deeper than that. But Achane is right there with Rashad White for points this week. And now I feel like I'd be an idiot if I didn't go with the hot hand based on last week. How would you play that?
I don't love Rashad White this week. I don't. The volume is there. We've talked about it on the show before. The volume is there. The snaps are there. He had a bad game last week. He had a fumble. He's had really one good game so far. He's got a New Orleans Saints defense this week that's very tough against the run. So I'd probably go Achane in that case.
So starters this week, who we should start, who we should sit. We're going to start with someone that I feel like is still somehow underrated, maybe under-respected in the league, and that is Brock Purdy. The 49ers are really good, and Brock Purdy's having a great year so far. He's someone you're starting this week?
And no question. He's averaging right around 17 fantasy points per game, which is good. I mean, it's not great. It's not elite. But the Cardinals' defense is not great. I mean, listen, I know what happened to my beloved Dallas Cowboys last week. Trust me, it's just typical Cowboys. Okay, that's what the Cowboys do. Dak did not have a big game. I expect Purdy to be much better against Arizona this week. I'm also playing Javonte Williams, and he's been bad this year. 3 straight games, single-digit points, but the Bears are awful against the run. I mean, they gave up how many points to the Chiefs running backs last week? Double digits to 3 different players, including 2 touchdowns to Jerick McKinnon. So I'm playing Javonte Williams this week. I like James Cook against the Dolphins. That's going to be a high-scoring game. The total's about 53.5 right now. It may move up to 54 on some books. And the Dolphins are not great against running backs. They've given up 15-plus points to 3 backs so far this year. Adam Thielen's got a revenge game against the Vikings. I love that narrative. I'd prefer that Andy Dalton were starting. He's not. It's going to be Bryce Young. But the Vikings are very, very vulnerable to slot receivers, so I would start Thielen. And I'm on the fence about DJ Moore, and I'm on the fence about almost everybody in this Bears-Broncos game because I don't know how it's going to come out. Like, I could see this game being 14-10, or I could see it being 27-24 because neither offense is great, and both the defenses stink. So I'm going to play DJ Moore because I like the matchup. I mean, the Dolphins just absolutely handed the Broncos defensive backs their lunch last week. That's not going to be the case this week, but it's a favorable matchup for DJ Moore. So he's a flex for me in this game against Denver. And I know it's a steak bomb game. It's like 2-0-3 teams, but there might actually be some fantasy points scored.
Yeah, I'm amazed. I'm sure others are to hear any Chicago Bears offensive player, someone to start when I saw DJ Moore on there. You also like James Cook for the Bills against that Dolphins defense.
Yeah, I do. James Cook is getting volume, and the touches are there. The snaps are there. Latavius Murray and Damian Harris are getting a little bit of burn, and sometimes they're going to steal some of the red zone opportunities. But for the most part, James Cook is a lead back there for the Bills.
So who you're sitting this week in starts and sits? One addition to this, subtraction, will change one out. Garrett Wilson in for Zay Flowers, regardless of what the graphic says. You made the last-minute switch with that one. Why with Garrett Wilson now on the sit list, Michael?
It's more about Flowers. The Ravens released their injury report just within the last hour, and Odell Beckham Jr. and Rashad Bateman are both out. So I hate the matchup. The Browns defense is really good, but I mean, sometimes you've got to look at potential volume over matchup, and Zay Flowers is going to get a lot of targets in this game. And whether or not those targets are accurate targets and ultimately get him a solid stat line remains to be seen. But now I got to play him. You know, if OBJ were back and Bateman were playing, it might be a different story. But I'm going with Garrett Wilson. I hate this. I love Garrett Wilson. I'm such a fan of his game. It just Zach Wilson is terrible. I mean, like, you know, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to jump on the kid. You know, after Joe Namath destroyed him and everybody in the media is destroying him. I mean, Garrett Wilson's averaging 51 yards and 4 catches in 12 career games where Zach Wilson's been the quarterback, and he's only scored 2 touchdowns. And the Chiefs have been tough against receivers so far this year. Now, could Garrett Wilson potentially put up some garbage time points because the Chiefs are crushing the Jets? Yeah, absolutely. So he's a risk reward flex. Unfortunately, for those who drafted him to be their wide receiver 1 or 2, without Aaron Rodgers, it's going to be tough sledding from week to week. The other players that I would sit, Deshaun Watson, who's on the injury report, and he didn't practice today, which means that he might not even go. So if he does play, he's not 100%. He's playing the Ravens. I'm not going with Deshaun Watson. We talked about Rachaad White. I don't love the matchup against the Saints. I'm going to fade him this week. Brian Robinson Jr., a player you probably have to go with because he's been good for the most part. He's getting volume. He's the lead back for the Commanders. But the Eagles are really tough at home against running backs. In fact, they've given up just 6 touchdowns and the 8th fewest points to running backs at the link since last year. Nuke Hopkins, he's kind of fallen into that curse of the Titans veteran wide receivers, right? It was Julio Jones more recently, then Randy Moss and Andre Johnson, and now it's Nuke. I mean, he's had 1 good game. He's dealing with an ankle. Seems like he's okay now, but he's got the Bengals this week, and their defense can be very tough against perimeter receivers. So beware Nuke Hopkins. And then we, of course, mentioned Garrett Wilson. Listen, I mean, I've got Garrett Wilson in a couple of leagues, and I got to play him. This is not the be-all, end-all. Make sure you go to my rankings over at Sports Illustrated, and then you'll really be able to find out who you should start and sit. But the matchup's not great on paper, and Zach Wilson's, well, Zach Wilson, and we don't like that for Garrett or any of the other Jets' weapons.
And feel free to torch Zach Wilson. You're just saying what everyone with 2 eyes has seen,
well,
what Joe Namath has seen, what we all see.
I have a lot of friends who are Jets fans. And when Aaron Rodgers came over, I told them, I'm like, guys, this has been over 50 years. Like something's going to go wrong. And I love trends and I'm superstitious. And you know what? Sometimes people think I'm a jackass for actually believing in this stuff. But have you looked at who the Jets have drafted at quarterback in the last 50 plus years? They've all been duds. Okay, Chad Pennington was okay. He was 3 games over 500 in his career with the Jets. Mark Sanchez, Sam Darnold. They I don't know why they drafted Zach Wilson. He was never worth the 2nd overall pick. And then they try to fix that mistake by bringing in Rodgers, and the curse gets him again. And Rodgers blows out his Achilles 4 plays into a series. Listen, Jets fans, it is what it is. I feel for you, man, because I know you're all excited. And now you're probably going to get blown out, and people are going to be talking about Taylor Swift way more than your team on Sunday night.
Yeah, Vinny Testaverde ain't walking through that door anytime soon for the Jets to save them.
And Vinny blew out his Achilles in '98 when the Jets were supposed to be a Super Bowl contender.
All bad things for the Jets. All bad things. All bad things for that Titans offense. You mentioned Nuke Hopkins as a sit this week. I'm having a hard time finding someone to start on the Titans offense right now. Are you still good with Derrick Henry? But as his workload starts to reduce a little bit also, what do you think about players in that offense?
He had a bad game last week, but it happens. And I mean, listen, I mean, he's up there in age at running back, and he's had a boatload of work. So we've all been kind of waiting for Derrick Henry to slow down, and maybe we're starting to see the deterioration of his stats. But you got to play him. He was a 1st or 2nd round pick. He's getting volume. And Treylon Burks has already been ruled out, so they got to run the ball. Now, whether or not they're going to be able to have success against Cincinnati remains to be seen. But I got to play Derrick Henry, if for no other reason that he's been one of the best backs in the league for the last 5+ years. And the volume's there. And a lot of people are just in dire straits. And he's not a player right now that I am comfortable sitting.
Viewer submission for you, Michael, for this week. Matt Breida of the Giants or Jaylen Warren of the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a half a PPR league. Who are you going with?
Well, Saquon Barkley's been back to practice this week. So, and it's a Monday night game. So we're not going to really know for sure if Saquon's going to play until the weekend. But I'm playing Jaylen Warren regardless because I don't want to sit on Matt Breida and then Saquon's active and I got nothing. So I'd rather play Warren. He's got a good matchup against the Texans. I'd rather play it safe here.
So this is the stupid question of the week for me. And if the answer is no, I don't look at that ever, that's fine. If that's your answer. With teams playing in London, do you ever look at how guys have done on an international trip before? Or is that not a factor at all, and you're simply looking at opponent and not what they do? The Jags are an example, right? Because they play there every year. Are you looking at that at all?
I'll look at it, but and if there's a fun stat that I dig out, right? If there's like this hidden gem, then maybe I'll use it. But for the most part, it's more about the matchup and how the player's been performing over the last couple of weeks based on how I'll project him as a stardom or a sit-em. But I will look at it. I love stats and I love trends and all that kind of stuff. I got one for you that I'm sure the viewers are going to love.
Oh, I can't wait.
We saw the Dolphins last week score 70 points. And that typically does not happen in the NFL. All right. I mean, like they were what, 3 points from breaking the record of the Washington Redskins, who scored 72 points, which is the high. A stat that one of my colleagues at Sports Illustrated, Bill Enright, found is unbelievable. There have been 8 teams who have scored 60 or more points in an NFL game. Now, this comes before the Dolphins did it last week. The following week, those 8 teams are 1-7 straight up and 0-8 against the spread.
Wow.
So take that for what you will, but that screams bet Buffalo. I love trends. Maybe you don't. I think that's a really interesting one.
It's very interesting that you can be fatigued from running up and down the field so much, and that could actually affect you the next week. It's like the workload and the carries for the running back, but you can score too many points one week. That could affect you next week. They've always said, save some for later, right? If you're doing too well, save it for later. Maybe the Dolphins should have done that. We never leave anything on the plate for Michael Fabiano. We never save anything. We get it all out there, and he'll join us every week here on the show. Michael, appreciate you, man. Great as always.
Good luck this weekend. Take care.
Absolutely. Good luck to everyone playing fantasy football. Crazy stat. 8 teams to score 60 or more before the Dolphins. Those teams are 1-7 the following week. Nuts. Michael Fabiano from Sports Illustrated joins us weekly. When we come back, we're hosting a show here on a Friday. I've got a Friday discussion point I want to get into. When I think Friday nights in the fall, and as someone who used to work and cover high school football, that's what I think about. I think about high school football. But we're seeing a trend more and more now where it's not just high school football. And there's multiple reasons for that. The college game is now starting to take center stage. There are 4 big college football games tonight. Do we like that? Do we hate it? I'll give you my answer when we come back. We'll get to our big takes and much more. That's all coming up. This is Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
Is it fair for people to be upset with Barbie?
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose. I mean, what have you seen firsthand of how this has affected you in the plant and your fellow employees? Under Joe Biden, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan. Putin has invaded Ukraine. So if there was ever a time for freaking aliens to inhabit and conquer Earth, now would be that time.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
There's no doubt in my mind he could have caught the ball in his back pocket if he'd been running. Blowing a lead and losing a game is 100 times more lasting and painful in some clubhouses than losing the game 15-0. If I had to start a list in the last 10 years of horrible underachievers, he's at the top.
We were directly impacted by the whole Leah Thomas thing, and we were able to see you guys on the ground with your signs supporting. That was huge.
They were saying, oh, it's only 1 or 2. That's rubbish, and we all know that's rubbish. Once those trans-identifying males were able to succeed, it just encouraged others.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Bold taste of a Southern legend.
We are back, 1 hour down, 2 to go. We are flying through this Friday, getting you ready for the weekend. What am I saying? It is the weekend. It started on Thursday. We're 2 days into the weekend right now. Americans playing in the Ryder Cup, which the weekend was over already, or do they? We'll get to that momentarily. A lot of great things coming up this hour. Also, the great, the one, the only John McClain will join us in about 20 minutes. We got Kelly in Vegas coming up to give us our weekend bets. A lot of fun to be had on this Friday as we go steamrolling into the weekend. I'm trying to think of the right word to describe how quick we're going to get in the weekend. I'll come up with it before the end of the show. I'm Chad Withrow. Jonathan Hutton will be back with us next week. Well-deserved. A couple days off for Jonathan. He'll be back middle of next week with us. Friday, fall, leaves falling, fires outside. Maybe some beverages for some of you. All the different things you think about this time of year. If you're like me, on Friday nights in the fall, you're thinking about Friday Night Lights. No, not the movie with Billy Bob Thornton, not the book from Bissinger, not the TV series, none of that. You're thinking about actual Friday Night Lights. You're thinking about high school football in the fall. But that's not as much the case anymore. Why? College football is starting to take over. I've discussed this before, but Thursday nights for college football used to be a pretty big deal. When ESPN started that Thursday night package, they would get good football games on Thursday night. That's really no longer the case. The best game last night was Western Kentucky MTSU. Not exactly a premier college football game on a Thursday night. But tonight's schedule, get ready for this. Louisville, NC State, 10th ranked Utah at 19th ranked Oregon State. La Tech at UTEP, whatever. Cincinnati, BYU. Hey, that's a Big 12 matchup now. And the first ever for those two teams against each other in Provo. That is a late night game. The NCAA and college football, they see an opportunity here. They look at Friday nights and they see this as a frontier that is not being explored on television for live sports. Friday nights in the fall have long been reserved for people going to cheer on their local high school, whether they have kids in the school or not. For years and years, towns would unite around a high school football game on Friday nights, whether or not they had family playing. Didn't matter. People went to the high school football game. It mattered. It still matters in a lot of communities around America. Doesn't matter everywhere, but it still matters in a lot of places. But college football is afraid of the big bad NFL. Thursday nights, well, that's reserved for Lions over the Packers last night. That's reserved for Prime Video and streaming because the NFL is king and more people are going to watch the NFL. So college football decided to run away from Thursday night and encroach on what was a football night for high schools. That was the weekend for years and years. Friday, high school. Saturday's college. Sunday, NFL. Monday, again, NFL. Now it is Thursday night NFL. Friday night, some college, some high school. Saturday's college. Sunday, NFL. Monday, NFL. Start the cycle over week after week. This breaks my damn heart for a number of reasons. One is because Friday nights aren't really high school football night anymore either. Why? We don't have enough officials in America to make that reality. Games are split across the country between Thursday night and Friday night. Some states, you're playing high school football games on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Why? Not enough officials to officiate every high school game on a Friday night. So teams have to play on different nights to make sure they have officials for the game. It breaks my heart that we're at that spot in America. But there's a lot of reasons contributing to that. Some is people not wanting to officiate because they don't like getting yelled at, getting threatened, and some bad behavior from parents or players or coaches or whatever it may be. The pay is not good. There's a lot of reasons contributing to this. But when I look at that college football slate on a Friday night, sure, I'll be home tonight. I'll tune in for some of those games. That part of it I'm fine with. But when I think about what it really signifies, which is the loss of high school football in a lot of places in America, and not just that, but the loss of Friday night being an institution of high school football across this country, it makes me a little bit sad. And it does when I see that also. Something else that makes me sad is a dumpster fire. I don't like to revel in someone else's misery, but it's time to get to our dumpster fires of this week. I'm going to Europe for mine to start. The Ryder Cup. High hopes for the Americans in the Ryder Cup this year. They were the betting favorite for a good portion of the week. By the time the tournament came around, they were no longer. Tournament, contest, whatever you want to call it. They were no longer the favorites. I bet on the Europeans to win this tournament. I did that because of history. Not having won on European soil since 1993 is a factor in this. Playing in Rome, I wake up like a lot of people this morning, and I turn over to USA because I want to see what's going on in the Ryder Cup. And when I turn that TV on, I see 4-0 Europe in the lead. Not good. So I watch a little bit, and I'm thinking, okay, hey, there's some good things happening here in what is the late afternoon session, but early morning here in the States. Watching the 4-ball competition. Americans are leading a number of them, tied in some, losing a couple, but it looks like they're going to balance it out a little bit. They're still going to be behind after that historic start for the Europeans, starting 4-0, but they fall apart late. And not as much fall apart as Europe really took over. Score right now is 6.5 to 1.5 going into day number 2. And I thought I was upset about that because, look, I'm pro-America in all ways. And if America's involved in an international competition, I want them to win. I don't care if I disagree with the politics of someone not playing in the match. I'm not rooting for the U.S. women's soccer team to lose to Iraq in a match. I still want them to win. I know crazy for some people to understand, but that's the way I am. I want America to do well. I'm not reveling in American failure in the Ryder Cup right now, but I thought I was hurt by America's performance and what was happening. I'm here in studio getting ready for the show, and Colin Warner, our audio tech, is livid at what happened at the end of this round today with the Europeans taking charge. So much so, I thought he was almost emotional about it. But Colin, who's with us right now, because I got to get his reaction. Colin, you calmed down. You went away. You got some lunch. You were upset when it happened, but you came back a different man. What happened? Did you gain some perspective?
That was the 7 Miller Lights, probably.
Oh, that too. Yeah, that also helps. Yes.
I did gain some perspective. You know, you have to go back to history. It's the first time Europe started 4-0 in the morning sessions, history of Ryder Cup. First time in history, U.S. didn't win 1 point, history of the Ryder Cup. But I'm thinking I'm a true American, so I believe that the Americans will come back. That's what we do. We're resilient.
Yeah.
We will come back. I think Brooks Koepka kind of calling out Jon Rahm for being a board. You know, that might fire him up. I think the big thing is maybe get away from the whole bro squad. Just put out your best players together. That's what, you know, Zach Johnson, his whole thing was just let them do what they do. You know, we don't need no rah, rah, rah. We don't need any inspirational videos. Well, maybe that didn't work so well. But then again, they ran into an absolute buzzsaw. The Europeans putting out of their mind. And then you had Jon Rahm, eagle on 16. Jon Rahm, birdie on 18. I mean, the way it came down on the 18th hole on the last 3 matches of the day was just absolutely unbelievable. But it is absolutely what the Europeans do on European soil.
Colin, this is the perspective we needed. I needed to pick me up because I was sure that it was already over, but maybe there is still a chance for the Americans in this competition. And Colin had mentioned Brooks Koepka. So the quote about Jon Rahm was, and I quote, this after they tied their match day, their 4-ball match. Koepka says, I mean, I want to hit a board and pout just like Jon Rahm did. But you know, it is what it is. Act like a child, but we're adults. We move on. Well, the Americans better move on and move on to better play and win a lot starting tomorrow to have a chance to take home this Ryder Cup championship. It's an event I love watching every year. It's a good opportunity to watch before football with such an early morning. It's overnight, really, middle of the night type competition, but I'm up early, and I'm watching. I got to see a lot of it this morning, which was really cool. Colin, thank you so much for the really inspirational, I thought. Considering your state of mind when I saw the Europeans knocking down those putts, you're in a much better place now, so we appreciate you for that.
Thank you, Miller Lights.
That's all we need. Thank you, alcohol. Oh, speaking of alcohol, Old Smoky Moonshine and Yeehaw Beer. That's where we are every day here in Nashville. So we are sponsored by alcohol. Colin's Good Feelings, Good Tidings about the Americans, sponsored by alcohol. There was another alcohol moment over the weekend that involved shots between Brittany Mahomes and one Taylor Swift. And this has set the world ablaze. And this is the Dumpster Fire segment. Davey Hudson with us now in a little bit of a magic act. That was like a SNL quick change right there with these guys swapping seats, getting the headset on, getting ready to go. Davey, well done. You've got a Taylor Swift-inspired dumpster fire for us this week?
Well, I do, but this is something that's been going for years, in my opinion, and, I mean, it was really highlighted in Netflix's show Quarterback, but my dumpster fire for this week is Brittany and Jackson Mahomes, because the headlines, at least until today, have been completely off of Brittany and Jackson and how annoying they are, soaking up all that attention. And now Taylor Swift being in the spotlight is leading to them hitting the back burner even more so. But there was a report, Chad, you brought this to my attention, that Taylor and Brittany actually had a nice conversation and hit it off whenever they were at the Kansas City-Chicago Bears game last Sunday. And I guess we will see if Taylor ends up showing up to MetLife Stadium, if that relationship continues to blossom, in which case it might be two of the most annoying people on earth having all the spotlight at that point. So I don't even want to think. This fire right now is somewhat contained to the dumpster, but I mean, I could see it just encapsulating the entire building right next to it. So we'll see where that goes, but that's my dumpster fire for this week.
I got a hot take for you. I find Brittany Mahomes to be charming. I did on the show. I don't know what it is, but I find her to be somewhat charming, and I like her. Jackson Mahomes, absolutely not. So when I saw the report that Brittany, and I keep wanting, every time I say Brittany, I want to say Britney Spears also instead of Taylor Swift. Brittany Mahomes and Taylor Swift hit it off and enjoyed some shots together. That didn't bother me that much. Now, the thought of Jackson Mahomes weaseling his way in there with Taylor Swift and shooting some sort of dumb TikTok dance video with T Swift, Davey, that bothers me.
Yeah, I mean,
that bothers me a lot.
We've talked about this. It was smart of Netflix's Quarterback not to have Jackson Mahomes talk once. And
yeah, probably per the request
yes,
of one Patrick Mahomes.
Yes, but with Brittany, I don't know. Like, listen, I like Patrick Mahomes. All right, I understand where he's at in the place of the NFL and football at large. But I don't know if I've heard of a couple that have more annoying voices than the two of them. Like, you've got Kermit on one hand, and I don't even know who to compare her to on the other hand.
Have you seen the video comparing Patrick Mahomes to Kenny Powers?
Yes.
To Danny McBride's Kenny Powers?
It
is very, very close, those voices.
Soundgarden there.
Yeah. Yes. It's very, very close. I'm not saying that Brittany Holmes can't be annoying. I'm sure, most people can be annoying. She certainly is that. There's something about her that's charming to me. Jackson Mahomes, absolutely not. I did love all of the memes of putting Jackson Mahomes in different skyscraper scaling shots, trying to get to Taylor Swift to get the TikTok going.
Yeah.
That was hilarious to see with the Jackson Mahomes stuff.
And I get it. Maybe I'm part of the problem here because I'm tired of all the Taylor coverage, yet here I am on a show actually bringing it up. I want that to die down. I get it. It's bringing a new audience in there. There was a funny bit I saw, and Cooper Kupp did an interview. I can't remember who was interviewing him a couple years ago, but he was breaking down this play to levels what we would describe as beyond scientific. And they're just saying Swifties 48 hours after researching what the NFL is. And so
that's been another funny part of this is what the Swifties are going to bring to the NFL and bring to the game. Davey, thank you so much. That was a good dumpster fire segment. Thanks to Colin Warner also for his perspective on the Americans and the Ryder Cup. I guess I'll keep watching. I'll certainly continue to cheer on America. Hey, America's cheering on baseball. Highest attendance for Major League Baseball since 2017 this year. I think a big reason for that boost in attendance, some non-traditional winners that are finally winning. Non-traditional baseball markets, I wouldn't say that. Baseball markets with really good fan bases that have been abused by ownership for years and years that have done well this year. And there's no better example of that than the Baltimore Orioles, who have had a storybook season, and they clinched the AL East last night And here is the call from Kevin Brown. Remember Kevin Brown, by the way, suspended or, double secret probation or whatever it was from the Angelos family for something that was ridiculous. Well, here's Kevin Brown on the call with the Orioles winning the pennant.
And it's up to Tyler Wells and Trevor Story. Strike one. We've talked about all the folks who made this possible. This belongs just as much to all of you who have watched, who have listened, who have come to the ballpark all these years. Just outside the Story. Mike Elias, Brandon Hyde, and this organization, they preach patience. We preach patience. You all were patient. You tuned in night after night, hoping for a moment like this. The 1-1 to Story is grounded at third. Ramon Urias from third. The Orioles have done it. Go crazy, Baltimore. You are the new champions of the American League East.
Go crazy, Baltimore, indeed. Love a good underdog story. John McClain joins us next.
Hey, good morning. The NFL has filed a grievance against the NFL Players Association over running backs being possibly coerced/coached into feigning injuries. That's right. Faking injuries is what the NFLPA suggested in memos to running backs whining about not getting guaranteed money. Well, let me tell you something. I don't blame the NFL. There are provisions in the collectively bargained agreement that say NFL players in general must give their best effort. Well, if you're telling NFL running backs to fake injuries, and have we seen NFL running backs fake injuries? I don't blame the NFL for getting a little crabby. Let's talk about it. Jonathan Taylor of my beloved Colts, he's out, had ankle surgery way back in November, still can't go. His agent said, however, that he could pass a physical right now. My thought is, if Jonathan Taylor could, quote, pass a physical right now, why is he on the PUP? The agent said this a week or two ago. If he knew he could pass a physical, maybe you sit out a game or two. You don't go on a 4-game PUP. But here you see Tom Pelissero saying what a lot of us that were a little bit crabby of. Filed a grievance over allegations the union advised running backs to consider feigning or exaggerating injuries to gain leverage in contract talks, and seeking an order for the union to cease and desist from such improper conduct. I think Jonathan Taylor is absolutely faking. Look, I don't know. What do I know? I know this, though. Jonathan Taylor walked around pretty good at training camp. Jonathan Taylor's been whining about this. Jonathan Taylor and his agent, as I said, have already said, yeah, he could pass a physical. Let me tell you about Austin Eckler, an ankle injury with no timetable for return. Really? I coached for 30 years. A lot of guys with ankle injuries, high ankle injuries, tweaked ankles, you name it, and everything in between. And there was always a timetable for them to return. But all of a sudden, Austin Eckler, who is the most vocal of the running backs, I can't return. I got an ankle. See, ankles are tough because there is swelling, there is black and blue. You do know, but also when you get healed from an ankle and you take a bad step, a lot of times on a heel, it can hurt and there's no outward sign. It's like mental health. You can say, I got mental health. It's like verbal abuse. You can say a guy verbally abused me. You can say anything you want. So Austin Eckler, Jonathan Taylor, certainly there are questions. I did not see the Saquon Barkley injury live. I saw it many, many times on replay. I guess he's hurt. We'll see how long Saquon Barkley stays out. There are some legitimate guys that are hurt. I think we all agree Nick Chubb certainly hurt. I think J.K. Dobbins hurt. Aaron Jones seems to be hurt. Chase Edmonds seems to be hurt. But you see what I'm doing here between Eckler and Barkley and Chubb and Taylor and Edmonds and Dobbins and Jones? You got a lot of running backs hurt. Why would I, if this was in fact run like a business, give guaranteed money to NFL running backs? They just get hurt. And truthfully, the Colts just won a road football game with a running back. Zach Moss looked all right. Got into a hole. Okay, fine. There's not a chance in holy hell that I am giving money to an NFL running back that is guaranteed for anything longer than a year. I'll give you a year's guarantee. I'll give you a 3-year deal, 1-year guarantee.
It's not every day you get to talk to a Hall of Famer, but we get to talk to one every single week on this show right here. John McClain. He's the man. He's in the Hall of Fame. He's in numerous Hall of Fames. He's certainly in our Hall of Fame. You can read his 4 columns. You can listen to his appearances all at sportsradio610.com every week on in 6 different markets, including our sister station in Nashville on 102.5 The Game. Joins us here weekly to talk NFL. John, how are you this week?
Chad, I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing very well. So this came down just a few minutes ago. The NFL is changing its gambling policy, John, to be lighter on those that bet on non-NFL events at team facilities, where a first offense is now 2 games. This clears the way for Jameson Williams with the Lions, Nicholas Petit-Frere with the Titans to come back starting on Monday. I think this is a pretty common sense approach to it. Bet on the NFL, really bad. Bet on your team, even worse. Bet on a UFC match because you're on the team bus, not as big of a deal. So I am glad that they took care of this and changed it where some of these guys can now get back.
I had a technical difficulty there.
You sound great. You look great, too, so you're good now.
Thank you. Well, first of all, to me, they should outlaw all gambling at facilities. You're confusing some of these guys because a lot of them are not very smart. And it's not just the players. There's a lot of coaches I know are not very smart. And if you allow them to do little things like that, why not just sneak in another bet?
Well, and they're not allowing it, John. To be clear, it's still not allowed. That was the confusion before, I think, was, well, what exactly is a team facility, right? If it was on the road, in a hotel, on the team bus, it was some of that. The wording is betting on non-NFL sports while at a team facility. That's the only one they've lowered from 6 games to 2 games.
I wouldn't do it.
Still a 2-game suspension, though.
Yeah, well, number one, you should never bet, period, especially when you're at a facility. They should just outlaw all gambling if you're in the NFL. You make enough money. You shouldn't need it. You're just asking for trouble. But on the other hand, Cadillac, it is a small percentage of guys who have been suspended. Now, a big deal's made out of it when they do it. But when you think about all the guys playing, you think about 53-man rosters, 16-player practice squads, say 5 to 10, 15 guys on injured reserve. That is a lot of players on every team, not to mention everybody else in the organization. So it's a handful or 2 handfuls who've actually gotten caught. And I'm not saying they don't do it, but it's still a small percentage. And I think we're always going to have people who violate it.
And, John, don't you just think if you get the right agent and you're a player going into the league, that agent should just say, here's my rule. No sports betting apps on your phone or anyone around you. Pretty simple, right? Just don't put anything that would ever tempt you on your phone, and then you'll be okay.
Oh, the teams can do that too. They'd like for everybody to do that. It's kind of weird, when it comes to gambling. The NFL is going to make $10 billion off gambling another 5 to 10 years. But the worst thing you could ever have if you think you found a player trying to influence the point spread. I know, unless you had a quarterback, you can't guarantee anything. You can't guarantee a running back is going to get the ball. You can't guarantee a wide receiver is going to get it, or defensive player is going to have a chance to drop an interception or a fumble. But that's what they worry about ultimately. If people ever think it's not up and up, they're going to stop gambling, and they make too many billions of dollars for that to happen.
Great story out of Buffalo, John. Reports coming in. Damar Hamlin is going to be active for the first time this season on Sunday when the Bills host the Dolphins. What a remarkable comeback story, given what he was going through and what we all were seeing a year ago in that game against Cincinnati, that he's going to be active on Sunday for the Bills.
They've done a great job with him, the doctors, the trainers, everybody. He's done a great job coming back, wanting to come back. And it is a great success story. It's even another kind of great story is Miami going to Buffalo to see if the Dolphins take control of that division. All we know is it's a two-team race. Ain't going to be involving the Jets. It's not going to be involving the Patriots. And this is a chance for the Dolphins, who started off 2-0 on the road, to go 3-0, beat their biggest rival at home. This game is going to be fantastic.
John, you mentioned the Dolphins, so I have to ask you, what the hell is going on with Denver and Sean Payton and that team? That was a lay-down performance defensively, giving up 70, historically bad defensive performance for an NFL team. What is happening?
Well, if you were to ask Jets offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett, he might say it's one of the worst coaching jobs he's ever seen.
Karma? John, are you saying karma? Karma could be a factor here?
Absolutely. And I'm all for it, because I thought Sean Payton was way out of line with what he said about Hackett, even though all of it was true. And I'll tell you something else. This is a lesson for anybody who is out of football and still wants to be in football, like Payton was last year on Fox. He said some things about the Dolphins and Tua Tagovailoa, and they were using that as motivation last week. Now, Tua would never acknowledge that. But if you want to come back, just stay off TV, stay off websites. Don't say anything. It can come back to haunt you, and Payton has. And Payton, who was great when he had a Hall of Fame quarterback, it's amazing how that happens, isn't it? Now, and Russell Wilson's not the reason they're losing. It doesn't look like Sean Payton's got his act together, and everybody wants to say, oh, it's only a matter of time. But I'm all for him getting it egg on his face, because that's where it deserves to be.
Yeah, I think you can go one of two directions when you get out of it for a short time when you're a coach, and especially when you've had success. You can go the direction of being humbled a bit, not having a team and being around a locker room and all that. Or you can watch games every week and get involved in the media and start to buy into your own clippings and maybe your own lore a little bit, and watch everyone and see the little mistakes and think, I'm so much better than everyone else, I will do a better job. It seems to me Sean Payton's gone the latter and decided that he's better than everyone else and he could do a better job than anyone else as he's watching and talking about those games.
I think he was already that way. It just didn't manifest itself when the Saints were winning because of Drew Brees, because they had a good organization and good teams during that period in which he was there. But now that he's in Denver, and everybody thinks it's only a matter of time before he's going to do stuff to make it look like it was all Russell Wilson's fault. But can you imagine what it's going to be like if they lose at Chicago? The Bears are one of the worst teams I've ever seen, and they're headed to maybe getting the first pick in the draft, getting Caleb Williams, and then trading. They can trade up if they get close, because they also have Panthers' first-round pick. But if the Broncos were to lose at Soldier Field, what a great story that would be.
John, which 0-3 versus 0-3 game would you most want to watch? Broncos, Bears, or Vikings, Panthers?
Broncos, Bears,
I'm with
because the Bears have so much going on the field, off the field. Matt Eberflus is probably going to end up being fired. GM may end up being fired because they put their faith in Justin Fields. Luke Getsy, the coordinator, was trying to make him do things that's not what he does best. And one of the best things about being a coach, you got to maximize the strengths, minimize the weaknesses. They're trying to make him be a pocket passer, and he's not. Or they're geniuses, and they're going to get the first pick and draft Caleb Williams. who is the best of looks like what looks to be a terrific quarterback class. But man, oh man, are they bad right now? Could they be historically bad and be 0-17?
Whew. Could be.
Who
Really
is right?
Yeah. Really tough situation, John, with Chandler Jones in Vegas. Seeing that video yesterday, some of the other behavior on social media. Arrested today for breaking a protection order, an order of protection. What do you make of this? I mean, it's tough to know exactly what's going on, but I think we all feel like it's a guy who needs some help.
Chad, I stopped tweeting and retweeting because he was so far out there. Things he was saying about other people, things he was saying about Josh McDaniels, and everybody said he needs help. And watching him on Twitter talk about Aaron Hernandez didn't get killed in prison and breaking down crying makes me wonder when the Patriots traded him to Arizona at the height of his career when he was a great pass rusher, something wasn't going on then. And then the Cardinals ended up with the Raiders. You just don't know, but he does need help from somebody. And I'm sure a lot of NFL people will reach out. If he wants help or if it's ordered by, say, a court to get help, the NFL has a lot of programs to help put people in that situation.
John, it's been a bit of a roller coaster, at least for me, with the Lions so far in this early part of the season. They go to Kansas City and win. That surprises everyone, even with the injuries, for Kansas City to go to the defending Super Bowl champion and win on the opening Thursday night. So I'm thinking, okay, this team is truly legit. They go home and play terrible defense in an overtime loss to Seattle. Then they win. Then they go to Lambeau last night and put a beat down on the Packers. And I'm watching that post-game pep talk from Dan Campbell, and it looks like a team that's no longer surprised with some success. It looks more like confirmation of what they've done and what they've built when they win a game like that. Are you buying the Lions right now?
I am, and that's a great way to put it, confirmation. What they did in the last game of last season when they found out they could not make the playoffs if they won at Lambeau Field, and yet they won at Lambeau Field, knocked the Packers out of the playoffs in what would be Aaron Rodgers' last game in Green Bay. They've been playing well at Lambeau Field. I think Dan Campbell is a tremendous motivator. We all got to see him on Hard Knocks last year. He's right. He's from Texas. He went to Texas A&M. Everybody liked him there. Hard-nosed guy. Everybody always talks about if all the coaches got in a fight, would Campbell win? Well, I might be putting my money on Mike Vrabel. Those two guys are about the same size, but they're fun to watch. And I've thought for years now, Cadillac, that the guy deserved to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame is former Lions coach Buddy Parker. He won 2 championships in the 50s. He dominated Paul Brown, the founder and great coach for the Cleveland Browns, and yet he was only been nominated by the senior/contributors committee once, and that's this year, which means we on the committee will rubber stamp him. And if you think Lions in championship, think how many people weren't born in this country the last time they did it. They've only won 1 playoff game since Buddy Parker. But I love the way their fans are so fired up. They go on the road, and I'm looking forward to seeing that new Barry Sanders documentary that's supposed to take us behind the scenes on why he retired 2 seasons off of 2 years removed from a 2,000-yard season. Just a lot of things about the Lions. I think the NFL is better when the Lions are good. A great success story.
Yeah, and I think the betting odds on that NFL head coach Royal Rumble you mentioned would certainly put Vrabel and Campbell probably even odds to win against every other one in a fight. I'd put him far down the list. I would like to see Mike McDaniel versus Pete Carroll in a fight. Like old, small guy, young, small. Pete Carroll very fit, still very active on that sideline. That's the fight I'd like to see on the low end, and then the top end would be Vrabel v. Dan Campbell. No doubt about it. John, let's go around the league a little bit this week.
Hang on a second,
go ahead.
Chad. What was it that Campbell said when he took over? They're going to bite your kneecaps.
Basically kneecap biters, guys who are going to bite some kneecaps.
Well, Mike McDaniel could bite Vrabel, and he could bite Dan Campbell on the kneecap because that's about as high as he could get.
He does strike me as a guy who wouldn't fight fair if given the chance. Like he'll fight dirty, right? Kind of like Mac
He'd have
Jones.
to.
He's sort of the Mac Jones of the NFL coaches, right? He'll get a little dirty if he needs to. Maybe a little cup check here or there.
Get him in the footballs.
Now that we brought it up, Mac Jones is not developing the best reputation across the league as a player with some of this stuff.
He's not. And he's also not playing the way they hoped when Bill O'Brien came in there and took over the coaching of him and the offense, and maybe it will. They got a lot of time to go. They don't have great weapons. What they do have is a team that can finish third in the division ahead of the Jets, where before they were destined for last place. I can't remember if I guess Bill Belichick finished last in his first year of 2000. Maybe he didn't. But boy, wouldn't that look weird if the Patriots were actually last? But if Mac Jones can't turn around this year, they may be grabbing one of those quarterbacks in the first round in next draft.
John, got 30 seconds left. Miami at Buffalo. Who wins?
I'm going with Buffalo just because they were at home. Jalen Waddle's back. It's hard to believe they scored 70 points, had 350 yards on both sides of the ball without Jalen Waddle. I hope it's not too windy so we can watch that Miami passing game.
John McClain, one of the very best, at McClain_on_NFL is where you can follow him. You can read his work at sportsradio610.com. Listen to him there as well. John, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you, Chad. Like you do the same.
John McClain, also a big T Swift fan, a Swiftie himself, that John McClain. Very interesting, that story. We'll get to that story with him next week. When we come back, maybe we'll ask Kelly in Vegas her thoughts on Taylor Swift. We'll definitely ask her thoughts on what you should be betting this weekend. Kelly in Vegas is next. This is Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow.
I'm here at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, but that's not the only big race that's on people's minds. Let's go talk about it.
There's no way Biden can win again. There's just no way. Even the people that voted for him because they didn't like Trump, now at least have to see like senile, not all there. Probably won't be alive for 4 more years.
Are you a Trump guy? Or are you a DeSantis guy? Or someone else?
I don't like any of them.
Who's your dream candidate? Who would you want to run?
Myself. I think the best candidates probably are smart enough not to run.
I just hope there's somebody that's young enough to care about the country instead of their politics.
My fear is they get Gavin Newsom from California. And I think it would be the new cool vote for the younger people, and that's what I don't like.
Who do you think on the Republican side would be able to take on Gavin Newsom?
Great question. As a Republican registered, I love what Trump's body of work did, but they're just out to get him and destroy him, and we won't get things done, which is crappy for me to say. I thought DeSantis was going to be the guy. Trump only has 4 years left. He cannot fix everything that just happened in 4 years. And he's going to be battling indictments and all these false stuff for the next 4 years. We won't get anything done. And it'll just be this stalemate in America. That's why I almost don't want him in. But if he is the leading candidate, that's who I'm going to vote for.
Is there any Democrat that you would vote for, consider voting for?
Absolutely not.
What about RFK Jr.?
No.
Who should our first female president be?
Michelle Obama, of course. Yeah.
I'm going to go with Harambe 2024.
We have the 2024 presidential race coming up, and I wanted to see who you thought your favorite TV characters would vote for. Homer Simpson, like who do you think he would vote for?
Donald Trump, all the way.
Vito Corleone.
Whoa. Whoever advances the cause of the Corleone family. Yeah.
Tony Soprano. If Tony Soprano is voting in the 2024 election, who do you think he's voting for?
I'm going to go Ron DeSantis.
Okay. Why do you think that?
Just seems like a Ron DeSantis kind of guy.
Is this a meatball joke that you're trying to make right now? What about Homer Simpson?
Homer would vote for Biden because he's a dope.
Who do you think Napoleon Dynamite would vote for?
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
There's a right answer here.
He's voting for himself or Pedro.
There's a Viking show, I think.
Okay.
Maybe that's Hulu. I don't know.
So in the Viking show, whatever the main character is, who do you think they would vote for in 2024?
Probably a
A goat or a dog?
I think we have one of those in office right now. So who do you think Jon Snow would vote for in this upcoming election?
I'm going to say Donald J. Trump.
Why do you think so?
Because Game of Thrones is all about drama, and Trump comes with the drama, baby.
Would you vote for Trump from jail?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Because at that point, what else do you have to lose?
Okay, would you vote for Trump from a jail cell?
Yeah, baby, I will get Trump out of jail.
Would you vote for Trump in jail?
Oh, yeah.
Based as
The thing that Trump needs to remember is there's another political figure that said, I don't recall very well.
Yeah.
And that's all he's got to say.
Is there like a dream candidate, someone that you think could like save us all?
Yeah, Jesus.
Amen to that.
Welcome back into Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. I'm Chad Withrow. Jonathan Hutton, not here today. Apologies for that. He'll be back on Monday. The good news for everyone out there is that Kelly Stewart, Kelly in Vegas, is here. She's with us for her weekly segment with us, talking all things sports betting on this Friday. Kelly, I got to start with, finally bragging a little bit on myself, because while my betting hasn't been that good, I did pitch A&M minus the points against Auburn this past week, and you laughed it off, and look what happened. Finally, a winner. You're looking at a winner for the first time this fall, Kelly.
I am very happy for you. Hugh Freeze, that offense. The defense did what I needed it to do, but I could not get anything offensively going from the Auburn Tigers. So congratulations to you. And no, I am not taking Arkansas this week and stepping in front of A&M, even though I do believe it's the right side.
Well, we might get into Arkansas also on that, but I want to start with my pitch since you laughed it off a week ago. I'm going with another favorite. Hutton's not here to make his pitch, so you're either going to have to say yay or nay to what I'm throwing out here to you. I think USC is going to destroy Colorado in a similar fashion that Oregon did a week ago. I know it's a lot of points, but I am going to take USC minus 21.5 at Colorado. Kelly, am I crazy?
I don't think you're crazy, but Folsom Field is a tough place to play. 27 is a little overblown, just like, 21 was a little underblown last week. Let's see if the Colorado defense can't come to play, but I think this is going to be a track meet. I would not be surprised to see a ton of scoring, slight lean towards the over. I think it's still in the mid-70s, which is just an absolutely wild number to see in college football these days. But I don't think USC is quite as good as everybody's trying to make them out to be.
We'll find out soon enough. We'll find out about Tennessee and South Carolina, a lot more about both those teams this week also. Kelly, you like the Gamecocks in this game. I'm in full agreement with you on this one. I thought the points were a lot when this line initially opened. It hasn't really moved a lot throughout the week either. Why South Carolina?
This is tough. I know you are a big Vols fan, as is our good friend Clay Travis, but man, I'm not sure they're going to get to avenge that absolute blowout from last year. Look, last season's offense, nails. This season's offense, not so sure. This is a pretty large number for a team who really didn't look super impressive against Virginia, Austin Peay, UTSA. And then, as you remember, I told you they were going to lose in Florida as a 6-point favorite on the road. Gamecocks, on the other hand, look, that defense looks pretty mediocre on paper, but they played Georgia, North Carolina, and Mississippi State, all pretty good offensive teams. Do I think the Gamecocks are going to win this game? Look, it is a night game in Neyland. That is one of the toughest places to get a road win, but it's definitely too many points for a game that I think could end 31-27.
Yeah, South Carolina, you're right. Certainly game tested, pun intended, with the Gamecocks. They've been through it so far this season, more so than Tennessee. Another team I can make that description about is Baylor, Kelly. When you look at their early schedule, it's been tough on the Bears, but you like them on the road in Orlando this week?
Yeah, I do. I got to catch some glimpses of that UCF game last Saturday against my Kansas State Wildcats. Whoa, that defense. Let me tell you, K-State was very banged up in that game, but laying double digits here at home, I know it's the bounce house. I know it's a tough place to play, but they gave up 536 yards again last week. Dom Richardson's going to be back for Baylor. Blake Shapen should be back under center for Baylor, plus a handful of a couple other guys. Look, I think getting out of Waco for the first time this season is going to be exactly what the Bears need. This is too many points for a defense that could just get gashed for another 150 yards here on the ground.
Kelly, I'm so disappointed in the Aztecs of San Diego State because we do a little thing on the show called Wrong Team Favored each week, and we take an underdog to win outright. And my bet last week was San Diego State, I believe at plus 3.5 at home against Boise State. They end up losing 34-31 in that game. So I'm reluctant to go back to the well with the Aztecs, but you like them on the road at Air Force. Why?
Yeah, I was on them last Friday night as well. Look, they had a shot to win that game. Jalen Maiden doesn't fumble on the 1 yard line. What could have been? That might have went the other way. SDSU owns this rivalry. They've won 9 of their last 10. This isn't going to be a tough game in Colorado Springs, but the Falcons defense we know is stout. Low scoring game. I'm getting double digits here. Last year's final score was 13-3. That was the last time that San Diego State lost to this team. I don't think you can run the ball against this Air Force team, so I'm expecting an air raid from the Aztecs. I think they keep it close, and maybe, just maybe, they can cash that 3-1 ticket on the outright.
So Florida is in Lexington to take on Kentucky this weekend. I saw something where this is the first time Kentucky's been favored over Florida in something like since point spreads existed. It's been so long that this has happened. There is some love coming in for the Gators on the road in this one. Kentucky just a slight favorite in this one. Kelly, what do you think about this matchup?
So the matchup aside, I love betting on ranked teams catching points, and that is betting against, I should say. It is always super trappy. I'm not understanding the love for the Gators here. I have seen this Gators team in person too many times to really trust them. Hey, did they step up big against the Vols? Absolutely. Kentucky, if you remember last year, went into Gainesville, got the outright win. This is a really scrappy Wildcats team that kind of goes through some ebbs and flows, but I don't think the Gators' problems are all but solved just yet. I think this game in Lexington is going to be a tough one. It's a coin flip. I only wanted to discuss it because I think sometimes people overlook some of the situational plays. And when you're laying points with the unranked team at home, it pans out for you more often than not in terms of a betting perspective.
Kelly, I'm curious because we talked about this year's SEC. You know, it's not as top-heavy as normal. You don't have those dominant teams. I'm guessing in your line of work, it's harder to identify trends also. You know, we'll keep bringing up that Florida performance against Tennessee, but that's completely out of character for what we've seen from Florida this year. And really that one half, for the most part, sort of out of character with Tennessee. But I feel like there's probably 10 SEC teams in that camp that we've seen so far that are kind of week to week. And it seems like most years in college football, you can establish trends better in terms of betting markets and what teams are doing. Are you finding the SEC a little bit more difficult to play this year?
Oh, absolutely. You brought up Auburn just to throw some salt into the wound. There's about 5 SEC teams that I have no idea what their identity is from week to week. Sometimes they show you a little bit more. Sometimes you don't see enough. I think another one of those teams is Ole Miss. I think another one of those teams is Mississippi State. Obviously, we already talked about Florida. Arkansas, we kind of touched on against A&M. I want to take them plus the points here in Arlington. But again, I'm not sure who this Razorback team is. I would have to agree with you right now. We know who Georgia is, and that's about it.
Yeah, it's tough to figure out. Maybe a little bit easier to figure out in the NFL, maybe not. You've got 2 games, 2 teams you like this week, Kelly. Let's start with the Panthers against the Vikings.
Oh, this one's disgusting. Chad, I feel like I need to go take a shower after I bet this one. I took the +4. It did hit 4.5, came back to 4. So it's gotten a little bit of action. I'm not sure if this Vikings defense can actually play an entire game of football. And that is the problem here. Even Justin Jefferson went to his Instagram to complain about his own defense. I mean, when you're the best wide receiver, if arguably not one of the best players in the NFL, you're going to get frustrated by your defense giving up big leads. And that's what we've seen this defense do. They got gashed by the Eagles, got that push late. We've seen them lose at home as favorites to teams like the Bucs. This team is very, very bad on defense. Kevin O'Connell, now we're hearing rumblings about him being in the hot seat. Now all of a sudden, they're supposed to be a 4-point favorite in Carolina. You know, whether it's Bryce Young or the Red Rifle on Sunday, it doesn't really matter to me. I did like this team last week in Seattle, ultimately ended up staying off because I missed the 6.5. But for a better part of 3 quarters, we did see the Panthers come to play. They are not tanking. They are trying to win football games. The Vikings, on the other hand, have had a monstrous amount of turnovers that is just completely unacceptable at this point in time to be laying points with this team on the road. We know that teams that are 0-3 and 0-3 against the spread, which both of these teams are, the underdog covers almost 71% of the time.
Kelly, you know full well you're going to be watching every second of this disgusting game between the Panthers and Vikings. You're gonna love it. We discussed this earlier this week, but which game is more disgusting? Panthers, Vikings, Bears, Broncos. If you had to watch one start to finish, which one are you watching?
This isn't even up for debate. Chad, I am in Wisconsin right now for a wedding.
Okay.
We're flying out of O'Hare Sunday night. I had tickets to this game. I had full on planned on doing Thursday night in Green Bay and Sunday afternoon at Soldier Field. I gave them away. As a Broncos fan, it is not even worth my time when there are 6 other games on the television at that time to waste my time on the worst game we are going to see. And imagine even getting involved in this game, either taking the points or laying them. Absolutely not. This is a complete and utter stay away game.
See, if I were you, I would have gone to the game just for the story. You know, years from now, you're like, I was at that. Remember when Sean Payton was the coach of the Broncos and they gave up 70 points to the Dolphins in historic fashion? The next week, I was in Chicago for that game, pitting 2 teams that were combined 0-6 at that point. I would have gone to that game just for the story. We may have to update some Sean Payton getting fired props at some point. I don't think we're in danger of that right now, but maybe next week we'll get into some of that. Bills Dolphins, my favorite game of the weekend. All kidding aside about some of these bad NFL games. Bills Dolphins this week. Kelly, who are you playing?
Yeah, I don't like to get into the sharp squares argument too much here, and that's just because, hey, the NFL is a lot more square than people ever want to imagine. But I can tell you this right now, this is the sharp square game of the week. All the sharp guys are going to be on the Bills. All the squares are going to be on the Dolphins. And why wouldn't you want to be on the Dolphins? You just said they hung 70, and they could have tied the all-time scoring record. But Mike McDaniel was so nice and did not kick the field goal against Sean Payton. What a class act. Now they have to go to Buffalo. Good news is the weather's not crappy like it normally is when these two play. So that is a benefit to the Dolphins. Right now, they have the #1 most passing efficiency rating, which is huge for metrics. But if you looked at this game before the year started, the Bills were almost a touchdown favorite. Then we saw them lose to the Jets. Then we saw them finally turn a corner last week in Washington. Now this one's sitting at 2.5, 3. So I always like to tell people to shop around. That key number of 3 is very important. So 2.5 if you like the Bills, 3 if you like the Dolphins is the bet. But I do think the Bills will get away from this one. I think the Dolphins are a great teaser spot. But I like the Bills to get the victory at home here, kind of shock the world. And hey, this is full disclosure. I am holding an AFC East ticket plus 275 on the Dolphins.
2-part question here to close us out, Kelly. 1, has fall arrived in Wisconsin because it has not yet arrived in Tennessee, and I'm bummed out about that. 2, how pissed off are you to be involved in a fall wedding right now with all you have going on with football season?
You have no idea. I am not going to slander any of my family members, but I finally had to say to them, you are welcome. My presence is here.
Tell them about it. Tell them all about it.
No, all jokes aside, it's going to be a beautiful wedding. I'm super excited, but thank goodness I get at least watch college football tomorrow and NFL on Sunday. So Friday evening wedding. I will, however, have probably my phone going back and forth between the Cincinnati and the Oregon State game.
Perfect. Kelly, we enjoy these weekly visits. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much. Have fun at the wedding. Have fun with all the football. May, not just me this time, may we all actually be winners this weekend together. We're going to win together. Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks, Chad.
Can't win. There will be losers this weekend. But my solemn prayer is that you will be a winner and we'll all be a winner, much like Kelly in Vegas. And she provided those winners for us for this weekend. We're going to have some winners in the final hour of the show. Guns Show, live in studio joining us. We're going to have a debate over who is the most famous person in America, non-politics division. Excluding Joe Biden or Donald Trump, who's the most famous person? Is it Taylor Swift? Is it someone else? But when we come back, my top 10 college football games of the weekend, that's next. This is Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation. And pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate. We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number one overall pick.
Is it fair for people to be upset with Barbie?
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose. I mean, what have you seen firsthand of how this has affected you in the plant and your fellow employees? Under Joe Biden, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan. Putin has invaded Ukraine. So if there was ever a time for freaking aliens to inhabit and conquer Earth, now would be that time.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
There's no doubt in my mind he could have caught the ball in his back pocket if he'd been running. Blowing a lead and losing a game is 100 times more lasting and painful in some clubhouses than losing the game 15-0. If I had to start a list in the last 10 years of horrible underachievers, he's at the top.
We were directly impacted by the whole Leah Thomas thing, and we were able to see you guys on the ground with your signs supporting. That was huge.
They were saying, oh, it's only one or two. That's rubbish, and we all know that's rubbish. Once those trans-identifying males were able to succeed, it just encouraged others.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Bold taste of a Southern legend.
Show is flying by on this Friday. We are having some fun. This is Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow. I'm Chad Withrow. Hutton will be back with us next week. We got Mike Gunzelman, the Gun Show, coming up in about 20 minutes. Going to have a discussion on the most famous person in America, non-politics division, excluding Donald Trump, excluding Joe Biden, who's the most famous person in America. That is coming up. But every week on Friday, a Friday staple on this program, I give you my top 10 college football games of the week, and away we go.
Need more reasons to watch college football? It's time to bang some hats. Here's Chad Withrow's must-see games this weekend.
Damn right it's time to bang some hats. Davey Hudson is alongside to bang some hats as well. Game number 10. Let's get right to it in our top 10 countdown of the top college football games of the weekend. Important note, this is a true weekend list and not just Saturday list. Game number 10, USC at Colorado. USC playing at 9 a.m. Pacific time in this game. Will that be a factor? I don't think so. The Trojans are a 21.5-point favorite in this game. You heard Kelly in Vegas say, hey, Folsom Field, tough place to go play. Said no one ever up until about 3 weeks ago, and before that, maybe a 10-year period in the 80s and 90s when Colorado was rolling and Nebraska would come to town. I don't even know if they had another opponent that it would be a tough place to play. It is now. She's right. Southern Cal, that's the other USC, stepping into a hostile environment in this one. But, Davey, I think the Trojans roll in this one, much like Oregon did a week ago.
I think Deion's going to be humbled for 2 weeks in a row. The best thing, though, you mentioned playing at Folsom Field. Colorado's athletic director, Rick George, had to come out with the comments asking the fans not to storm the field. I do find it funny that it's like, hey, even though you're expected to get beat by 3 touchdowns, don't storm the field, which in the Pac-12, I know different conferences do it another way, but first violation, 25,000, second, 50,000, and third violation, 100,000. But hey, the Pac-12's going away, so I don't even know if that really even matters now.
I mean, honestly, he should have put that statement and that mass email out to the student body after the Nebraska field storming, because it was Colorado State when you beat them in overtime. That's the game not to storm the field. To your point, Davey, this would be the game to storm the field. Yeah. More than Nebraska, more than Colorado State, knocking off Lincoln Riley and the defending Heisman Trophy winner in Caleb Williams in Southern Cal. That would be cause to storm the field. But they can't, because eventually they will run out of money if they keep doing it. Game number 9. This game happening tonight. Friday night college football. Louisville, a 3.5-point road favorite at NC State. Louisville so far not really been tested. Games against Georgia Tech, Indiana, both those away from home, and they blew out Boston College at home. That's a good win. A Boston College team that pushed Florida State to the brink. Louisville's been impressive in year 1 with Jeff Brom. For NC State, their offense is slow. Brendan Armstrong has not had the effect that Dave Doeren and NC State hoped when he came over from Virginia. But that slow offense might help them in a game like this when it comes to time of possession. I really like this game in the ACC. NC State, though, Davey, to me is one of those tough teams to watch at times. And they're just so incredibly mid at all times that I don't know what to make of them. I think Louisville can be way more than mid under Jeff Brom at some point.
Yeah, Jeff Brom, liking what he's doing so far at Louisville. I mean, they don't call him Boren Doeren for nothing, but yeah, Dave Doeren.
That is what they call him, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, this is a game of which identity is going to win out, and I think whoever is ultimately able to get on top of that is going to come out victorious.
By they, I mean we. We call him Boren Doeren. Game number 8. Let's go to the SEC. This is the CBS 2:30 game. Georgia at Auburn. Georgia, a 14.5-point favorite, number 1 team in the country. Georgia's number 1 in the SEC in scoring defense, with all the complaints about how they haven't just blown teams out so far this year. Georgia this year in their first 4 games, they've beaten teams 166-45. Last year, they beat teams 174-32. Not a huge difference there in what Georgia's doing. The big difference is Georgia a year ago opened with Oregon and spanked them in front of America. This year, Georgia hasn't really played anyone, and in their one test at home against South Carolina, they end up winning by multiple scores. They're down 14-3 at home at halftime to South Carolina. This is a test for the Bulldogs going on the road for the first time. Davey, what do you think about this game? Will it possibly be a close one?
I don't think so. You look at Clayton Thorne with Auburn. That offense is just anemic at this point. It's one of those things where Hugh Freeze would need a biblical-sized miracle to pull off the upset here. So I'm not expecting much, but maybe a lower-scoring game than the experts anticipate.
You're thinking maybe thoughts and prayers for Hugh Freeze and Peyton Thorne in this game against Georgia's defense?
Need it. I mean, Georgia's going to, pin the ears back and just go full on, trying to attack that offensive line and get to Clayton Thorne early.
I think this is a Peyton Thorne, by the way.
Peyton Thorne, yeah, not Clayton.
I think this is the classic reminder of, but it's year one for Hugh Freeze. And, we had 11 new guys on offense. Got a little bit of that this past week against A&M. I think this is one of those reminder games also. I think Georgia rolls in this one. Game number 7. Let's stay in the SEC. Texas A&M, a 6-point favorite against Arkansas. This game in Jerry's World in Arlington. Arkansas against BYU. 14 penalties. That's a lot. 2 turnovers in that game. Cost the Hogs a chance to win the home game against BYU. But Arkansas can get after the passer. Is that going to be a factor with Max Johnson coming in for his first start at A&M? He played in relief of Connor Wegman a week ago. It's a nice luxury, though, Davey, to have a guy with SEC experience like Johnson if you're A&M.
Very much so. I think he's going to be able to run the offense efficiently. I have some more thoughts on this game a little bit later, but I am anticipating Raheem Rocket Moore. What's his last name?
Sanders.
I was about to call him Morris, but no. Rocket Sanders to return in this one. And Arkansas's mistakes are some in which they would be easily able to clean up. This could be a really close game coming down to the wire. I got more on this one a little bit later.
You were thinking about Raheem Morris, the former Tampa Bay coach,
yes.
Or Raheem Mostert.
Well,
2 other Raheems.
I was watching him destroy a fantasy team earlier, I guess, this past week, so it's probably still in the mind a little bit.
It happens for sure. Game number 6. A lot of SEC this week. That's been rare on my top 10 games of the week. Haven't had a heavy SEC flavor. Now, some of you might say, come on now, there's better games than this out there. There's going to be no better atmosphere or environment for a game. Tennessee going with their dark mode uniforms, black unis, 7:30 Eastern kickoff. And while vengeance may not be on the minds of Josh Heupel and Tennessee players, and, by the way, I do buy that. I think Josh Heupel's pretty straightforward. I don't think they're talking a lot about last year at any point this season and what happened in South Carolina. But you know who remembers what happened in South Carolina? Tennessee fans. And they are going to be drunk as hell and ready to go and fired up and loud Saturday night. That will be a factor in this game. Spencer Rattler in the South Carolina passing attack, best in the SEC so far. He's been terrific. It was the Tennessee game that woke him up. He was a disappointment at South Carolina, and he left that game a hero. He threw for 438 yards and 6 touchdowns. 6 touchdowns a year ago in this matchup. That is not a misprint. Tennessee has to find a way to get to Rattler. They can. South Carolina's offensive line, not good. Davey, to me, this comes down to Tennessee's defense finding a way to get off the field. And doing that on 3rd down will probably require some sacks. And getting to Rattler quick, I don't think their secondary can hold up if given any time. And offensively, can Joe Milton just hit a couple of big plays? Doesn't have to be perfect. Can't make the huge mistakes in the passing game, but he's not one to throw into trouble that often. Can he connect on 2 or 3 deep balls in this game? That may be the difference in this one.
Yeah, my biggest thing to watch for this one is Joe Milton actually healthy? If you watch the end of the first half last week, he took a knee injury when they were playing UT San Antonio.
And it was ugly. He was bent completely back. It looked like it was going to be really bad.
And honestly, like hindsight's 20/20, but Coach Heupel should have pulled him at that point and then went with Nico just the rest of the way just due to other things that transpired from that game. But I think it's going to be a bend, don't break kind of mentality for Tennessee. Spencer Rattler's going to put up yards, but can they at least keep them out of the end zone? And South Carolina does not have a defense, so Tennessee should be able to attack that. Probably another high-scoring game on our hands here, Chad.
Will Rogers a week ago after Mississippi State was a rushing attack in the first few weeks of the season. 487 yards against South Carolina secondary. Worst pass defense in the league, best pass offense in the league for South Carolina. Should be a fun one in Neyland on Saturday night. Let's go to the top half of our top 10 games of the week. Game number 5. some really good games between Kansas and Texas in recent years. This has become a nice little rivalry game between these two, crazy enough. Both teams ranked, Kansas coming in 24th, Texas 3rd. The Longhorns a 16.5-point home favorite. Kansas is number 1 in the nation in third down conversions. They are great in the short to intermediate pass game under Lance Leipold and his unique offensive system. But that Kansas defense, they've yet to really play an offense this season. They're going to get one in Quinn Ewers in Texas this week. Like this matchup, I think Texas ends up winning comfortably, but Kansas is going to do some things offensively to Texas in this game.
I'm really looking forward to seeing Jalen Daniels out there for Kansas. He's a guy that, kind of came into the season banged up, recovering from injury. He looks to be 100% at this point. So I would love an offensive firepower shootout here. It's one of those things, though. Texas, this is a game you win if you're looking to make that statement and say, hey, we're not going to let teams that are less talented than us actually out-scheme us. And I mean, this is a big question mark on Steve Sarkisian if he's not able to win this game.
So you want to just frustrate announcers, pundits everywhere. Jalen Daniels, Kansas. Jaden Daniels, LSU. We'll get to Jaden Daniels momentarily, but first, let's go to game number 4 on my top 10 games of the week. Number 22, Florida, the Gators. You heard Kelly in Vegas talk about this one. She doesn't understand the love for Florida in this matchup. Kentucky, though, a 1-point favorite at home. Graham Mertz has been really good and really efficient so far for Florida. 77% on his passes. Florida has the number 1 pass defense in the SEC. Devin Leary, the transfer from NC State, he's been okay for Kentucky. He's been good enough so far. Kentucky winning the Kentucky way under Mark Stoops. Defense, some offense, getting it done so far. This should be a really good game. I don't know what to expect, Davey, in this one, but I'm expecting right down to the wire between these two.
It's really weird because when Florida goes up there, they're typically the more talented team. But, I mean, Kentucky's looking to win 3 straight against the Gators. So that's one of those that I've kind of thrown out the records in the past because this series was all Florida. From 1980 to 2017, Kentucky only beat Florida 1 time. And in the last 5 years, Kentucky's been able to get them 3 times. And we'll see what they're able to do. But Coach Stoops, I think they're going to be having a good time up at Kroger Field. I think they'll actually pull off the upset.
So the last time that Kentucky beat Florida 3 straight, you have to go back to the Truman years, I believe it was. 1948 to 1951 was the last time this happened. That is what Kentucky is trying to accomplish on Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Central Time kickoff between Florida and Kentucky. Game number 3 tonight, Utah at Oregon State. Number 10 at number 19. The 19th ranked Beavers a 4-point favorite in this game. We know about Utah's defense, and they're very good. Maybe the best they've been under Kyle Whittingham. Number 1 in the nation in third down defense. Best in the Pac-12. UCLA with a really good rushing attack for Chip Kelly. They rushed for 9 total yards. 9 yards against Utah. Oregon State must run to win with DJ Uiagalelei and Damian Martinez. Really good game in the Pac-12 tonight, Davey.
Yeah, I watched the Washington State-Oregon State game, majority of it last weekend, and Oregon State's got a really good team. I think if they can put up some points, we've seen the offense for Utah not exactly be firing on all cylinders without star quarterback Cam Rising. He's not expected to go from all reports. So I expect this to be a close one, and it's one of those where the team you would expect to be favorites actually not in this one.
I love this game, and I'll definitely be watching tonight for sure. Let's go to game number 2 on the list. Back to the SEC, shall we? LSU, number 13, going to number 20, Ole Miss. The Tigers, a 2.5-point favorite in this game. Now we get to Jaden Daniels for LSU. Jaden Daniels, 320-plus passing yards in the last 4 games. LSU's run game can come and go. Their passing attack has been on point so far this year. Ole Miss pass defense allowed Jalen Milroe. You remember him, right? The guy that even Alabama fans didn't want to start. He passed for 81% completion rate a week ago. Ole Miss offense is versatile with the run in the pass, but wildly inconsistent. I think LSU could win this game and win big, Davey, when I look at the matchup on paper.
I see that. It's also one of those games where you look at the flip side, it's Lane Kiffin just kind of comes out of nowhere and they ultimately pull off the upset. I think this might actually be the best game of the week, in my opinion, Chad. I know you got it number 2, but
it's number 2. It's really good. Game number 1, Colin Warner, please be calm here as I talk about this one. The 11th ranked Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Colin's Irish, a 5.5-point favorite at number 17 Duke. Very interested to see how Notre Dame comes back after a heartbreaking loss at home to Ohio State that everyone watched. Riley Leonard, we know about his passing, but he is just shy of 100 yards rushing against Power 5 competition so far this season. Notre Dame disappointed with Sam Hartman in the downfield passing attack a week ago. Didn't really try a lot with that. Will they test Duke's secondary, which has been good so far this year?
I really love Riley Leonard and this Duke team. I mean, Mike Elko has done an incredible job with that program, and he's a guy that's going to be a hot commodity whenever their coaching searches come around this offseason. But as long as Marcus Freeman realizes he can actually put 11 players on the field and not be penalized for that, I think Notre Dame's got a really good chance to ultimately get right after what was a terrible loss last weekend.
See, now Colin hates you again for bringing that up about the 10 men on the field.
I mean, they let you put 11 out there. You got to use everyone to your advantage.
It's definitely a low point. Marcus Freeman has been great in all aspects of the program except loss at home to Marshall, and then that moment. Everything else, it's an A+. Recruiting, face of the program, everything. Got to get better on getting 11 men on the field. Cannot have that gaffe for sure.
Great list,
no
Chad.
gaffes coming up, Davey. Why? Because it's a gun show. Mike Gunzelman in studio. That's coming up next. This is Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network.
I'm here at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, but that's not the only big race that's on people's minds. Let's go talk about it.
There's no way Biden can win again. There's just no way. Even the people that voted for him because they didn't like Trump now at least have to see like senile, not all there. Probably won't be alive for 4 more years.
Are you a Trump guy? Or are you a DeSantis guy? Or someone else?
I don't like any of them.
Who's your dream candidate? Who would you want to run?
Myself. I think the best candidates probably are smart enough not to run.
I just hope there's somebody that's young enough to care about the country instead of their politics.
My fear is they get Gavin Newsom from California. And I think it would be the new cool vote for the younger people, and that's what I don't like.
Who do you think on the Republican side would be able to take on Gavin Newsom?
Great question. As a Republican registered, I love what Trump's body of work did, but they're just out to get him and destroy him, and we won't get things done, which is crappy for me to say. I thought DeSantis was going to be the guy. Trump only has 4 years left. He cannot fix everything that just happened in 4 years. And he's going to be battling indictments and all these false stuff for the next 4 years. We won't get anything done. And it'll just be the stalemate in America. That's why I almost don't want him in. But if he is the leading candidate, that's who I'm going to vote for.
Is there any Democrat that you would vote for, consider voting for?
Absolutely not.
What about RFK Jr.?
No.
Who should our first female president be?
Michelle Obama, of course. Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to go with Harambe 2024.
We have the 2024 presidential race coming up, and I wanted to see who you thought your favorite TV characters would vote for. Homer Simpson, like who do you think he would vote for?
Donald Trump, all the way.
Vito Corleone.
Whoa. Whoever advances the cause of the Corleone family. Yeah.
Tony Soprano. If Tony Soprano is voting in the 2024 election, who do you think he's voting for?
I'm going to go Ron DeSantis.
Okay, why do you think that?
Just seems like a Ron DeSantis kind of guy.
Is this a meatball joke that you're trying to make right now? What about Homer Simpson?
Homer would vote for Biden because he's a dope.
Who do you think Napoleon Dynamite would vote for?
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
There's a right answer here.
He's voting for himself or Pedro.
There's a Viking show, I think.
Okay.
Maybe that's Hulu. I don't know.
So in the Viking show, whatever the main character is, who do you think they would vote for in 2024?
Probably a goat or a dog.
I think we have one of those in office right now. So who do you think Jon Snow would vote for in this upcoming election?
I'm going to say Donald J. Trump.
Why do you think so?
because Game of Thrones is all about drama, and Trump comes with the drama, baby.
Would you vote for Trump from jail?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Because at that point, what else do you have to lose?
Okay, would you vote for Trump from a jail cell?
Yeah, baby, I will get Trump out of jail.
Would you vote for Trump in jail?
Oh, yeah.
Based as
The thing that Trump needs to remember is there's another political figure that said, I don't recall very well. Yeah. And that's all he's got to say.
Is there like a dream candidate, someone that you think could like save us all?
Yeah, Jesus.
Amen to that.
Hey, it's Friday. It is time to bring the energy. There's only one way to do that. The Gun Show.
You know
Mike Gunzelman in studio with us. This man to our right. He is fired up. He's ready to go. He's got some thoughts about Taylor Swift and the NFL's not NFL, network's coverage with the NFL and Taylor Swift. Guns, how are you, man? Ready to go on this Friday?
Doing all right. You know what I mean? It's a beautiful day, beautiful weather. NFL coming up. Let's go. Let's go.
So I enjoyed your piece at OutKick, OutKick.com. You can read it there about Taylor Swift and the coverage of Taylor Swift. Here's what I find fascinating, Guns.
Yes, give it
the
to me.
amount of people, like that the number one rated show in the female demographic, age 2 and up, became a blowout between the Chiefs and the Bears on a late Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
Just so people could tune in to see a glimpse of Taylor Swift live in a suite during the game. You can watch Taylor Swift videos or performances on YouTube
anywhere,
at any time.
Anytime you
can just go and watch that and actually watch her perform. But people tuned in.
It's ridiculous.
Just to catch a glimpse of Taylor Swift on television in a suite.
It shows why we are doomed as a society when you really think about it, or at least the next generation and the generation after that is. But I mean, the Swift effect is real. You know, we've talked about it here on the past that Taylor Swift is the biggest person in the absolute globe right now. But it goes beyond just like, oh yeah, we like Taylor. It's like, no, they are obsessed with Taylor Swift. And what's interesting is it's fun right now, you know, her dropping the let's effing go. You know, that's cool. It's like, all right, go, yo, let's go. It's a little bit of a badass. All right, Taylor, why not? But you go from that into now like the Swifties become the Swifties and it gets overblown. I mean, you look at, obviously, the jersey sales. I'm sure Fanatics is all about it. You know, Kelsey, boom, immediately skyrockets. Everyone's like, well, Taylor's got it. I got to get a Kelsey jersey. Boom, skyrockets. Sunday's game, Jets game, Sunday night, Jets hosting the Chiefs. Tickets, boom, all the way up there. I posted on Facebook, because Facebook is like where, like,
that's where the young people go, right?
Well, yeah, no, but like the normal, like the parents and like the uncles are on Facebook. And
people with reverse mortgage are on Facebook.
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
people that have, or maybe they've had to get a second mortgage.
Yeah.
They're on Facebook.
And so the ones that don't follow me on Twitter, I go to Facebook because it seems like they're more like a little bit more level-headed than my normal people. But
they love your anti-Taylor Swift commentary.
And I wrote that Taylor's going to be there on Sunday, and I had people that are in their 40s and 50s saying that they're bringing their kids specifically to the game because she's there.
Come on.
That's crazy to me. Now, I don't blame, here's the thing, because I got some backlash on this, but others completely saw my point. And for the others, I mean the sports fan out there, because I think that you're on my side here. I don't hate Taylor Swift. If they like each other, good, whatever. I could care less. But when it starts affecting the sports fan, the viewer, the diehard fan that will maybe not skip a wedding, but has their cell phone out and is streaming the game during the wedding or at the after party. We all know those people that just live for football.
Oh, yeah.
They don't want Taylor Swift in their lives. You have if the Swifties will go to Entertainment Tonight and TMZ and MTV. They will purposely seek that out. But the difference is the network, seeing how big of a cash grab this is right now, they're not going to stop. And it's eventually going to have the reverse effect. Am I wrong?
Like a reverse mortgage.
I am not wrong because already people are saying that it's played out.
No
Sports
doubt.
fans are freaking out and don't want to have the camera pan over to her every single freaking time.
Here's the battle, I think, Guns, and it's a great point that you laid out there and in the column. You can't overly risk alienating your base in anything you're doing. So if you're the NFL, here's the question I would ask myself. Is this good in the short term? Abso-freaking-lutely. You cover it, and your female base is up watching the game she's at. Sunday Night Football does great every week. It's the #1 show on television every week. It will be so again this week. But I think the risk is, and the question you have to ask, how many Swifties are really now going to be a magnet to all of the NFL? Or follow the Chiefs permanently if Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift break up?
Right.
The answer to me to that is not many at all. So what are we doing? We're getting a temporary pop.
You're selling out. You're
in
selling out for a
culture
quick
and everything
fix.
else, and jersey sales, all that. I also have a theory on the jersey sale thing. I think that's just for Halloween costumes. I think that's
that
a
could be
lot
true,
of women that are saying, we're going as Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. So I went online and bought you a Travis Kelce jersey.
That's funny.
And that's our Halloween party we're going to. That's what you're going to. I think that's the 400% jump in jersey sales for Kelce.
I think that might be the weekend. Well, I don't even know if it. So at first I wrote I give it 4 weeks before it becomes too much. But now that we know who she's going to be there Sunday, I mean, we've worked in this industry for long enough. We have those program directors and the former bosses and stuff. You just know that they're salivating right now, just like, ho, 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 why don't we come back with Taylor Swift rejoin music? Or like Iron Ego. He did the pun the other week where he brought in a lyric. That was funny. But now,
a lot of blank space references.
Yeah, it's fine at the time. But now it's just going to be so overdone by these hack program directors. Like, how can we make it even more cringe than already? And that is the problem, because they're so late to the game always that it's just not genuine. And when you bring up the Swiftie thing, when they break up, because they're going to break up based on the track record, it doesn't look things. But listen, maybe they don't. There's no way that they're going to hold on. If anything, they're just asking for more. I bring this up. There's already a petition to have the Chiefs change their name and the logo and all this from the Swifties because of what it might stand for and that it might be offensive. And they want her to get involved now. That's what you're dealing with. It's not just all rah, rah, let's go, this is all fun. You're dealing with a movement here that is psychotic and lunatic, although great. I'm a Taylor Swift fan and the Swifties are fun. You're dealing with something bigger than I think they truly understand. And the reason they don't is because it's sports delving into a world that is a TMZ, MTV, VMA world that they don't fully understand.
And didn't the Swifties try to ruin the dude from 1975 that dated Taylor before?
Maddie Healy. Yeah. They will turn on you in a second. It's playing with fire. It's playing with fire. I wish her the best. I don't hate her at all. I'm a fan. Went to the concert here. But it's already becoming too much where we have to learn everything. Now, I don't blame the coverage of it per se from people like us. We're just doing what we do at OutKick. We cover pop culture. We cover trending. We cover your sport. It's fine. But it's when it becomes on the actual broadcast itself and everything around it that it's going to just be pathetic.
I feel like dating Taylor Swift would be the equivalent of running for president, in that all of your secrets will be exposed
they will
by the
find out
Swifties.
everything,
You're signing up for full exposure.
It's good one.
If there's anything out there that's bad about you, if you did a podcast and said the wrong word at some point, or did anything remotely offensive or non-PC, they are going to find out about it. Much like when you run for president, there's going to be opposition research done on you, and they're going to find out everything, right?
Speaking of president, she did a big thing not too long ago, Taylor did, about getting people to sign up. Whoever she endorses is going to have a massive, massive surge. And I kid you not. Think about this proves the power that she has. There's two things, and I've said this publicly before. Two things that if I'm a candidate running for president that I want to stay clear from. A, pissing off the Swifties. So you want to hopefully have Taylor Swift on your side, but unfortunately I don't think a Republican, she's going to endorse a Republican. So that's that. And the second of this.
Ron DeSantis probably not on her list.
Yeah, probably not. And the second is don't take down TikTok. because if you try to go after TikTok, you just pissed off a whole generation of people that can vote as well. Those are the two things that I would warn people about if they're running for candidate.
She would surprise everyone and say Nikki Haley. Who knows? Like, hey, I'm going with the with the lady.
Yeah, why not that? But it is. We are in the trailer effect, whatever it might be. But I gave it 4 weeks. I don't know if I give it 4 weeks.
So
before you're tired of it.
Yeah, no, it's going to be before that. First off, the diehard older sports fan that doesn't give a damn about Taylor Swift, they're already tired of it. The moment they went and showed her in the booth. The people like me that are kind of on the fence of, oh, this is fun for a little bit, give it a month.
Yeah.
And then I'll be tired of it. I'm in the month window now where I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But give it a month, I'm not going to be as okay with it.
She's at MetLife Stadium. She's at the Jets. You have the Aaron Rodgers store. You have that. It's Sunday Night Football, so there's nothing else on. The ratings are going to be massive. The people are already going there. It's good. This might be the one that it's just So I understand you want the number, but at what cost? That's what they have to figure out.
So Guns on Sunday, I was bummed out. Not because of the Taylor Swift stuff, but Taylor Swift overshadowed another music announcement from the NFL, and that's their halftime show being Usher.
Oh.
And when you were putting, piecing the mystery together, and we saw the NSYNC reunion, and they're going to, create music together again for the first time, and we started hearing about a possible boy band halftime show, I got very excited.
Right.
I was excited about New Kids on the Block and NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and whoever else. Usher is a very good performer.
Fine.
And he's got some good songs. He's going to do a fine job. It's going to be well choreographed, all that. I'm a little bummed out, though, that it's not the boy band reunion.
I would say to you, let not your heart be troubled. Because I will say this, there's no way Usher's doing this by himself.
Of course.
He's not pulling a Rihanna, that he's the only one just being up there by himself. He's not pulling a Pink. He's not pulling a Weeknd. It's Usher. He's fine, whatever. He's going to bring out other people.
Justin Bieber's one for sure. Because
Bieber,
he discovered him.
Luda is probably going to come out, but maybe there is another element to this.
NSYNC?
I would love the NSYNC thing.
Yeah.
NSYNC just dropped a brand new song today, by the way. First time in 23 years. They just dropped a brand new song today for the Trolls movie. I think there's still an element to some sort of boy thing happening here. But, of course, the Usher overall, it's fine. But he's probably gonna have a new song, new album, new tour coming out. But I don't care. I don't care. Yeah. Just like I didn't care about Rihanna. Like, it's fine. Rihanna's fine. But give me something. Give me something here.
It's amazing that no matter what, the NFL always finds a way to win. Even on a day where you announce an underwhelming response, it wasn't bad about Usher, but it wasn't that excited. You get Taylor Swift at one of your games.
I need to
in a
say
suite
this.
Watching Travis Kelce.
I need to say this. People are like, why doesn't Taylor do it? Why doesn't Taylor do it? I have relentlessly been covering this on OutKick and OutKick.com. Here's the deal. That's why you follow the Gun Show. Let's go, baby, on OutKick. Let's go.
Gun Show, here we go.
Taylor,
Drop some knowledge on him.
Taylor was always Coca-Cola. Pepsi had the halftime show until last year. She wasn't going to do it last year. It was the first one that got taken over from Pepsi to Rock Nation. She can do the Super Bowl.
And Apple Music. It's an Apple Music.
Right, yes.
Rock Nation.
Rock Nation, Apple Music, they do it. She can do it whenever she wants, all right? She wasn't going to do it last year for the first one. This year, people are like, oh, why doesn't she? Well, she's overseas, all right? She's over in Japan and does a whole Philippines, et cetera, tour over there at the time. But mark it down right now. What's today's date? Friday, September 29th, right here on Hot Mic. How you doing? She's going to do it when the Titans debut down here 2026 because it's Nashville. She is saving it for the Nashville Nissan Stadium event, halftime show, Super Bowl. It's either 2026 or 2027, whenever they officially do it. She's going to own Nashville. It's going to be absolutely perfect. She'll bring out Tim McGraw. They'll redo the Tim McGraw song that they had back in the day. She is going to be captivated. They'll have a freaking statue of her outside.
Well,
because
it would also,
she will do that. That's exactly
for the people like the hardcore country fans that think she turned her back on country.
The way to win them
she
back.
would be all the way back in.
Yep.
If she did that. If she honored some country music
portion
of
go through
it.
her career. So
or her country music background.
She'll start with that country stuff. She's got it. Mark it down. The Gun Show knows what
I'm not even the biggest Taylor Swift fans, and I got chill bumps thinking about that performance and who could take the stage with her.
Makes complete sense.
In Nashville for the Super Bowl.
Yep.
I love that idea.
There's no better person to kick it off. Yep.
Is Taylor Swift the most famous person in America right now? We're excluding Donald Trump, Joe Biden, any politician. Is it Taylor Swift? Can I give you a submission to someone? I think that it is.
I would think I would only say LeBron. I don't think Brady. It's definitely not like Peyton or something like that. Maybe LeBron.
I'm not going to the world of sports, Ramon. I think it's Tom Cruise. And here's why. I think to be the most famous person in America, you have to be known or somewhat well known by all age groups.
All the generations, right.
So I'm talking 75 and 80 and up also. They know who Tom Cruise is. They've either seen a Tom Cruise movie or know the name.
But if you're 15 and below, you don't know who Tom Cruise is.
I think you do. I think Top Gun Maverick, I think you know who Tom Cruise is. If I went up to a 10-year-old and said Tom Cruise, they would know. My 8-year-old daughter has seen Top Gun Maverick 2 or 3 times. So she knows. Now, she knows Taylor Swift, obviously, too. That age demographic definitely knows it. I'm going Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise might be the best. You know what? That's probably one of the best answers to do.
I think another one that's a possibility, Michael Jordan. And that's because of the shoe with everyone young.
Yeah.
Everyone old knows Michael Jordan, but because the shoe,
so Jordan,
young people know
just
Jordan
the Jordan
also.
brand by itself. Maybe those are your top 2. I would think, I feel like people know the name LeBron.
LeBron is definitely up there in this country.
LeBron's got to be up there, but Taylor Swift is...
Taylor Swift's the biggest star in the world right now.
Yeah, when you really think about it, she really is. Now, that doesn't mean everyone knows her music. People would know the name Taylor Swift. Like, Michael Jordan could walk in, and an 8-year-old might have no idea who the hell Michael Jordan is, but if you say Jordan, he'll know Jordan just from the shoes.
If you showed him the Jumpman logo, they'd know who it is.
Immediately,
at that point.
So
but
something
maybe
like
not
that,
Michael
yeah.
Jordan.
It's a good question. It's a good problem to have if you're Taylor.
We may continue to have this debate. Davey's going to join us in the next segment.
Because our ratings were like that because we mentioned the T word. That's
right.
why.
Yeah. Oh, it's actually the G word, guns.
Oh.
We mentioned guns and ratings skyrocketed during that segment.
My man.
Guns always fun, man. You bring the
Always
energy
a good
every
time.
week.
Let's go, baby.
Really appreciate it.
On a
Thanks for
Friday.
stopping in here on a Friday.
Always.
Friday's fast-paced Friday. I love alliteration, right? Everyone.
That's what we need.
Everyone in TV radio loves alliteration. Fast-paced Friday gets a little faster when Mike Gunzelman, the gun show, joins the studio.
My man.
Guns, thanks so much, man. Have a great weekend.
Always a good time. Let's go. May all your bets be in your favor, my friends. Win that money.
Speaking of bets, NFL Moneymaker Locks of the Week coming up next.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
Is it fair for people to be upset with Barbie?
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose. I mean, what have you seen firsthand of how this has affected you in the plant and your fellow employees? Under Joe Biden, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan. Putin has invaded Ukraine. So if there was ever a time for freaking aliens to inhabit and conquer Earth, now would be that time.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
There's no doubt in my mind he could have caught the ball in his back pocket if he'd been running. Blowing a lead and losing a game is 100 times more lasting and painful in some clubhouses than losing the game 15-0. If I had to start a list in the last 10 years of horrible underachievers, he's at the top.
We were directly impacted by the whole Leah Thomas thing, and we were able to see you guys on the ground with your signs supporting. That was huge.
They were saying, oh, it's only 1 or 2. That's rubbish, and we all know that's rubbish. Once those trans-identifying males were able to succeed, it just encouraged others.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Bold taste of the Southern Legend.
We're back. Final segment on this fast-paced Friday on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. I'm Chad Withrow. Jonathan Hutton will be back with us next week. Fun show today. Big thanks to everyone who's joined us today. It's been a long list of guests. John McClain, Guns, who just joined us, Michael Fabiano, Jevon, Kearse, Kelly in Vegas. Everyone, we appreciate it. Great show today. Davey Hudson doing a great job. Everyone in studio, always doing terrific work. And you can do some terrific work with PointsBet right now. And if you're looking for a reason to get in with PointsBet, look no further. Exclusively for first-time PointsBet users, you can grab this unique offer. Right now, PointsBet users can get up to $1,000 in second-chance bets. If your first bet doesn't go as planned, PointsBet has your back with a second chance. Get this offer by visiting OutKick.com/bet. Complete the registration process with PointsBet and make your first bet. If your first bet happens to lose, that's when the second chance bet comes into play. Remember, terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or up to gamble. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Again, OutKick.com/bet. Time for our NFL Moneymaker Locks of the Week with me and Davey Hudson. Davey, I'm going opposite. I'm fading Kelly in Vegas on this one. I think the Vikings are still a pretty good team, and they're a really good offense with Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson. That offense will be enough to beat Carolina with the return of Bryce Young. I love the Vikings -4 this week. I know Kelly disagrees, but I'm going Vikes -4, and the Vikes will get to 1-3 now on the season.
I agree with that, Chad. It's a really good bet. I think the Vikings would actually have a tougher time if Andy Dalton was the starting quarterback for Carolina.
Possibly.
I know a lot of people were big on Adam Thielen this week. Thielen's not going to get the same run with Bryce Young that he did with Andy Dalton. So just for fantasy purposes, if you're looking for a nugget, there's one for you. Chad, for me, I am going back to the well for the third time.
You were obsessed with this guy.
Well,
pure obsession with this guy.
Is. I mean, I love the Sean McVay offense.
It's becoming borderline unhealthy how much you love Puka Nacua. I think you just like to say Puka Nacua.
I do like saying the name. It's fun to roll off the tongue, but third week in a row, taking the over on Puka Nacua receiving yards. This week we're at 73.5. He's hit all 3 weeks so far this season. He's going to do it this week. The Colts defense is good enough at stopping the run to where it's going to force them to pass. And I think this is the final week to do it. Chad, I did make the move to where I managed in a blockbuster trade. I got rid of Puka Nacua, but I was able to get Cooper Kupp in return in that deal.
Wow.
And Sean McVay has said, listen, they plan on activating Cooper Kupp next week, and there's a good chance that he is playing in week 5. And Cooper Kupp's going to light it up because Matthew Stafford hones in on one guy, and that one guy he will just feed and feed and feed. And if Cooper Kupp is healthy, that's who it's going to be. But for this week against that Indianapolis Colts secondary, take Puka Nacua over 73.5 receiving yards.
But you will say this is the last week to go over on Puka Nacua with the return of Cooper Kupp next week?
If
this
Cooper
is your
Kupp,
last chance to get in on the Nacua
yes,
madness?
Unless Kupp is not active next week, but I anticipate right now all signs are pointing to him returning to the field. So if no Cooper Kupp next week, I might go back, but I do think this will be the last week to actually take the over on Puka Nacua.
Okay, Puka Nacua. Just Davies' obsession with him may end after this week, but this is the last week maybe to take the bet on the over with Puka Nacua.
And 3 for 3 on it.
Wrong team favorite time. College football. This is not my favorite bit of the week. I'm winless on the season. And like Roy McAvoy in Tin Cup, I didn't come here to lay up, okay? I tried to go with a 3.5-pointer last week. Didn't work out with San Diego State over Boise State. It was close. They had a chance to win it. They lost 34-31. I am the lone player in this game with 0 points. Davies got 10 with that Florida win over Tennessee. Hutton's got 14 big points. I'm sitting at 0 so far. So let's start with Hutton's pick since he's not here. Hutton this week is going to go with Utah, his Utes, over Oregon State. Plus 3.5 is where he got that game. I think it's plus 4 now.
It's moved a little bit, yeah.
So he got plus 3.5. He likes the Utes on the road in Corvallis to take out Oregon State. I don't know what I really think about this game. I love Utah's defense, but tough to know what's going to happen in that one. So Hutton's going Utah. I said it before. I'm not laying up. I'm going big. I am trying to get squarely back in this competition.
You're right back in if this hits.
Hey, I could go Florida, plus 1. On the road just to try to get a win. I think Florida probably wins that game. I could do that. Not going to. I'm going big. Give me the Gamecocks in Knoxville. Give me 12.5 big points to get right back into this competition. I saw Spencer Rattler eviscerate that Tennessee defense a year ago. I said it before. Well over 400 yards, 6 touchdowns in that game. He is playing like the best quarterback in the SEC right now from a statistical standpoint. I don't think Tennessee's secondary has shown much improvement. The big question is, can they get to Rattler in this game? Now, I will also acknowledge last year's game was out of character for Tennessee, and I do think that Rattler's supporting cast is worse this year than it was a year ago at this time, especially without Juice Wells, a receiver. But I need to take a chance here. I'm shooting my shot. Give me Spencer Rattler and the Gamecocks going to Knoxville, pulling off the upset, getting their season right back on course and really muddying the waters of Tennessee season in the process.
Chad, I kind of like this process for you. I mean, you're buying the win for wrong team favored versus where your heart lies.
It's like playing a bunch of parlays where you're just trying to win big money.
It's like
if I play enough 12-point up games, I might hit one and get back in the competition instead of trying to piecemeal together, where I'm 0 for so far on the year.
I mean, I would say I want you to win, but I'd be lying directly to your face because I mean that would
I don't want
hurt to watch.
Please,
UT
I don't want any
in
pity in this. Okay, I want no pity. I want to play this competition outright.
Yeah, I mean, if Tennessee's edge rushers are able to get to Spencer Rattler early and often, Tennessee should be just fine. But they weren't able to do it last year, and I mean, we'll see if the fortune turns for them this go around. But guys, my pick for this one, I liked Hutton's over Oregon State. I was thinking about doing that. There was another game I was thinking about taking. I think Duke's going to beat Notre Dame. Sorry, Colin, on that one, but I think that's 5.5 points I could take. But there's another game that caught my eye, and a little bit bigger odds there. And that mentioned it earlier during your top 10 games, Chad. But I think Arkansas is going to take down Texas A&M.
Ooh.
Arkansas, 6.5-point dog.
This
here.
game's always good, by the way. Always
it
good.
is.
No matter where the two teams are, or if one's a lot better, it's always a good game.
And it's one of those things to where Arkansas is going to have a bounce back week. They had several things go against them last week. I think within their preparation this go around, they're going to be making sure to clean up a lot of those mistakes. I do think Rocket Sanders, he should be going. He makes a huge difference on this offense. And, Max Johnson stepping in for Texas A&M, but I could see this being one of those let down games for Jimbo, and that hot seat gets even hotter. And, going down to Jerry's World, it's going to be a fun environment. But, yeah, give me Arkansas to have the upset over Texas A&M.
KJ Jefferson's been good, not great so far for Arkansas. But Arkansas does get after the passer well, and that could be in their favor with Max Johnson starting for the first time in this game. I'm with you, Dave. I think it's going to be a really close game. I think A&M wins, but I think it is going to be right there, razor's edge the whole way through.
Yeah, I'm gambling a little bit, trying to go for that 6.5 where I saw a couple of like around the 4 points I'm even more sure on, but got to risk it to get the biscuit.
Anytime we can quote Steve Spurrier, it's a good time to do it. I do want to read this quote from Spurrier, which I love. This is in response to, no, I wouldn't call it controversy, but to Ryan Day, Ohio State head coach, keeping receipts after Lou Holtz said on our show and others that Notre Dame's the more physical team and they're going to win the game, and Ohio State has not been good in games against teams that are more physical with them in recent years under Ryan Day. Of course, Ryan Day responded and said, I'd like to know where Lou Holtz is right now. Very angry on the field right after the game and right after Ohio State's win. Spurrier was asked about this, and Steve Spurrier, in his typical fashion, said, quote, he didn't say anything terrible. Ohio State's lost some close games. They've been out-muscled. Day didn't necessarily clobber Notre Dame. If we had won a game like that, where we scored on the 1-yard line with 2 seconds left, we'd be saying a lot of thank you, Lords, instead of we're tough, we're mean. Either team could have won that game. That from the old ball coach, Steve Spurrier. Always count on Spurrier for the soundbite. Love that man with his quotes. Took me a while to get there, but have a lot of love and admiration for Steve Spurrier now. So, Davey, I mentioned it last segment with guns. Taylor Swift. Is Taylor Swift the most famous American right now? And this is, again, taking Donald Trump out of it and the president now, Joe Biden. Who's the most famous American?
So, if you were to take all the generations that are currently alive, and we got to look, I mean, the greatest generation that's people born before 1928. There's like a couple left, but outside of that, the silent generation, the baby boomer generation, that's roughly 27% of America's population. And so when you do that, while some of them are going to know who Taylor Swift is, I think you got to go with somebody more in line with what you were talking about, Chad, with the Tom Cruise route. Another name I'll throw out to you, Samuel L. Jackson.
Really?
I'm throwing that name out. That dude has been in everything.
Yeah.
And for the younger generation, if you went back and you watched the Star Wars prequel, well, or not the prequel, but
it was the prequel. It was the first.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
episode 1, 2, and 3.
Mace Windu's in there. He's still doing the commercials nowadays for Capital One, and he's just coming back with the Secret Invasion on Disney Plus right now for the Marvel stuff.
Here's the issue that I throw in there with Samuel L. Jackson. 90s. If you say the name Samuel L. Jackson to someone who's 13 years old, a lot of them will not know who it is. Now, if you showed them a picture of Samuel L. Jackson, they might say, oh, that's the guy from the Capital One commercial, or that's Mace Windu. That's this person. So I'm going to veto this one and say no, because there's a lot of people who would not know the name Samuel L. Jackson. Now, if I approached a 12 or 13-year-old and said, Tom Cruise, I think everyone would know.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise.
I don't know, man. I worked at a kids camp for several years while I was in college, and their lack of the knowledge and things like that, like 10 years ago, I would say any of those kids like under 9 right now would not know who Tom Cruise is.
Would everyone know, we'll go back to politics a little bit, just not Trump or Biden. Would everyone know Obama?
For the most part, yeah.
That's why I think you got to take it out of politics. George W. Bush. If you said that, I think there are a lot of young people who wouldn't know.
Probably a lot less on the younger, but I think for Obama and Trump, you would get a large portion of the people in that younger age group that would definitely be like, yeah, no, that's Barack or that's Donald.
More name recognition in America with every age. Bill Clinton or George W. Bush?
Clinton, simply because of Hillary.
I agree. Bill Clinton on that one. Michael Jordan or Bill Clinton?
Michael Jordan.
I think there's 3 finalists to me. If we're gonna crown the most famous person in America, it's got to be between Taylor Swift, Tom Cruise, Michael Jordan. Again, non-Donald Trump division. Non-Trump or current sitting president Joe Biden. I think it's one of those 3. I probably lean Taylor Swift, but I understand the argument of people that are over 75 may have no clue who Taylor Swift is.
Yeah.
Even name recognition wouldn't know.
That's the thing. It's like if that person were to walk in the room, and that's the thing for Taylor, it's like, well, none of my grandparents or people that are above the age of 70 are going to be like, oh, was she in a movie or something?
Yeah.
No, she's just like, she's a very popular singer. And I mean, she is very famous among the younger demographic, but I don't think you're catching hardly any of the people in that 27% I was talking about earlier. Because, I mean, if you're like, what's she in? They're like, oh, yeah, she sings. Well, if you're on the radio, you're not seeing somebody's face.
Yeah. I think Tom Brady, while playing, would have been high up there. I think Patrick Mahomes is up there now, but this is the point with Kelsey and Taylor Swift together. Taylor Swift can only date down when it comes to attention, when it comes to celebrity.
Colin wanted to throw in the name Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods is a great one. Colin, I failed to mention that. Colin mentioned him the other way. Athlete-wise, right there with Michael Jordan. I'm putting Tiger Woods ahead of any current NFL player, any baseball player. LeBron James is up there. I know Guns threw him out. I'd put LeBron and Tiger in the same category, right there around Michael Jordan.
If we were to do most famous voice, do you think Morgan Freeman would run away with that one?
Maybe with people our age and up.
Okay.
And yes, I'm putting you and I on the same age, David. You're welcome. Well, hey, we'll get to famous voice.
We're
on
both technically
next
in the
week.
millennial generation.
That's
so
true.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm on one end of it. You're on the other. But either way, we're still in that age range. Hey, fun show today. Appreciate everyone watching, listening. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow will be back on Monday. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Puka Nakua.